Chapter 2177. Great Star Venerate Rue was straightforward. Even if his opponent was a Great Star Venerate, he would not care. He would not show mercy to anyone who tried to snatch his people. Normally, he would be polite. But it was different now. This was a crucial moment. If the Death Clan was strong enough, they could even revive their Great Star Venerates. That would be great news. Most clans captured the Death Clan to save Great Star Venerates, or even late-stage Star Venerates. Or it could be said that it was a super genius who had fallen. These were all possibilities, especially super geniuses who died at a young age. They were assassinated or died in accident. They could have reached the Great Star Venerate level, but they died like that. How could they not feel pity? But it was different now. If the Death Clan could save those geniuses, they would be able to recover their losses. Those geniuses were all level 6 celestial materializations. With a large amount of resources, they would definitely become Great Star Venerate. That was why they wanted to capture the Death Clan so crazily. They did not have to revive Great Star Venerate. After all, some members of the Death Clan were not strong enough and could only revive those with lower cultivation. Those with higher cultivation would not be able to do anything. Your people didn't capture the Death Clan. I should be the one who captured them. Are you trying to snatch them? Tianyun stopped and observed Great Star Venerate Air. At the same time, he looked around to see if there were any helpers. You don't even dare show your face. You're a Great Star Venerate. You've lived like a dog. Great Star Venerate Air mocked him. Then, he said, you're afraid of offending our faction? If you know what's good for you, just show your face. I won't argue with you. Great Star Venerate Air was not afraid of Tianyun, but he had achieved his goal. Fighting a Great Star Venerate head-on was not a good choice. Although Tianyun was only in the early stage of Great Star Venerate, who knew if there was someone else behind him? You must have misunderstood something. I'm not afraid of offending you. I just don't want to show my face. If I show my face and get discovered, you'll run away the moment you see me. That won't be fun. Tianyun laughed and said, to be precise, all the forces. How arrogant! I've seen many Great Star Venerables, but I've never seen one as arrogant as you. Great Star Venerable Rear sneered. Then show me how strong you are. Great Star Venerate Rear had finished storing up power long ago. He had said so much just to set up defenses in the surroundings so that he could trap Tianyun there and prevent him from escaping. The next second, a level 6 Star Dharma idol appeared behind Great Star Venerable Rear 8-armed Divine Ape. The huge 8-armed Divine Ape had 8 arms, and it instantly fused with Great Star Venerate Rear. It had 8 extra arms, and each of them held a different weapon. It looked very ferocious. Since he could cultivate to the level of a Grand Star Venerable, his celestial dermic body would not be weak. It would definitely be at the 6th level. A 5th-grade Star Dharma idol was nothing in this place. 33 blocks of astral power emerged above his head and enveloped the area. So, it's a monkey. Quite impressive. Tianyun said coldly, you didn't degenerate, yet you came out to fight. Then go back and cultivate properly. The next moment, Tianyun also exerted all his power. 4 figures quickly appeared behind him, but he did not use the 7-colored Emperor Dragon Star Dharma idol. If he used the 7-colored Emperor Dragon, covering his face would be meaningless. Such a special Star Dharma idol could be easily found out with a little investigation. There was no point in covering his face. Although he could not use the 7-colored Emperor Dragon Star Dharma idol, he could use other Star Dharma idols. As a level 4 Star Dharma idol, he could use 4 kinds of Star Dharma idols. Not only could he use 4 kinds of Star Dharma idols, but he could also devour the astral power of 4 people. However, there was only one person in front of him, so he would still devour it. Even if he did not use his unique Star Dharma idol, he could still devour it. A huge figure appeared in the air and bit down heavily. It devoured 1/3 of Great Star Venerate Rear's astral power. This meant that he had devoured 11% of the 33 cubic meters of astral power. Then, he converted all of it into astral power that he could use. That was the key. He could not convert it completely before, mainly because the astral power level was too high in the later stages, so the amount provided was too much. He did not use his unique Star Dharma idol now, which meant that he could not use astral power. He could only use astral power if he used his Star Dharma idol. Otherwise, he would not have been able to suppress Mu Yangsu. He would have crushed her Star Dharma idol to death, so that she could not even release astral power. In order to hide his Star Dharma idol now, he could only use this move. Even if he could use other Star Dharma idols, he could not use astral power. That was his biggest weakness. His real Star Dharma idol was the 7-colored Emperor Dragon. No matter how many others he had, they could only be used for effect. Fortunately, all 4 Star Dharma idols had additional effect. For example, the Starlight Deity and other Star Dharma idols with similar effects were all used at once. Together with the Skyburning suit, the effect was to soar to 25 points of astral power. When he did not use his Star Dharma idol, he was even stronger than Great Elder Riel when he used his Star Dharma idol. What ability is this? Great Star Venerable Riel was still shocked by Yi Tianyun's ability. A large portion of his astral power disappeared inexplicably, which greatly weakened his power. Yi Tianyun did not bother to explain anything. He went up to Great Star Venerable Riel immediately. 4 Star Dharma idols flickered behind him, making it hard for people to figure them out. In this state, it confused them even more. They could not see what Star Dharma idol it was, so it was difficult for them to recognize who it was. Some cultivators were disdainful of Yi Tianyun covering his face. They thought it was stupid. Unless he did not use his Star Dharma idol, he would be easily recognized as long as he used his Star Dharma idol. Were there many Great Star Venerables with level 6 Star Dharma idols on planet Red Moon? As long as they did not hide in the deep mountains and forests, they would be easily recognized. Now it seemed that they were wrong. His Star Dharma idol seemed a bit strange. It seemed like it had erupted, but it also seemed like it had not completely erupted yet. They were all dumbfounded. Radiant subduing killing fist. Yi Tianyun brandished his fist and punched down heavily. The power of his crazy mode was quickly stacked, and its might increased greatly. He punched at Great Star Venerable Riel, who had turned into an 8-armed divine ape. Dong! Chapter 2178. Everyone was shocked to see Great Star Venerate Rear being sent flying. He was defeated just like that? His opponent didn't use the Star Dermic aspect, did he? That's not right. If he doesn't use the Star Dermic aspect, how can he use stellar power? But he can't use stellar power so little. He's a Great Star Venerate after all. His stellar power can't be so little. What's going on? I can't see the Star Dermic aspect either. Is he hiding it? There's such a method? Hiding the Star Dermic aspect and using stellar power at the same time? What kind of ability is this? The cultivators in the surroundings discussed it. They had never seen such a heaven-defying move. Under normal circumstances, using stellar power would expose one's identity. This was inevitable, and no one could change it. However, Yi Tianyun had overturned their previous thinking. He could really use stellar power while hiding the Star Dermic aspect. Perhaps he could only use a small portion of his power because he was hiding it. There were gains and losses. What they did not know was that Yi Tianyun had not used the Star Dermic aspect at all. He had purely used the Star Dermic aspects of others. At the same time, Great Star Venerate Rear fell to the ground. There was a large dent in his body, which had been caused by Yi Tianyun's punch. Even though he had a strong body, Great Star Venerate Rear was still heavily injured by the powerful force. What great power! Great Star Venerate Rear's face turned pale. He had not expected his opponent to have so many tricks up his sleeve. More importantly, it seemed like his opponent had not used the star dermic aspect. This meant that he had been underestimated. He had not even used the star dermic aspect. How could he not be underestimating him? Yi Tianyun did not wait for him to catch his breath. He charged up to him and looked down at him. He said calmly, "Now, do I have the right to be arrogant?" Be ****starred. Great Star Venerate Rear would not compromise. After he shouted furiously, he quickly gathered the power in his body and wanted to use it. Yi Tianyun would not give him the chance to do so. He had not rushed over to talk to him, but to finish him off. Before Great Star Venerable Rear bounced up, he had already drawn his blade and thrust it down heavily. It easily penetrated Great Star Venerable Rear's defense and nailed him to the ground. This weapon was naturally the Long Moon Azure Dragon Saber. He was not afraid of being recognized. After all, this was the first time this weapon was displayed here. Even if it was seen, no one would know what weapon it was. Great Star Venerate Rear felt a piercing pain in his soul as the blade pierced through him. He felt a terrifying soul power quickly suppressing him and wreaking havoc on his soul. All of a sudden, he felt that his consciousness was about to disappear. When one's consciousness disappeared, it meant that they would forever disappear from this world. No. I admit defeat, I admit defeat. Great Star Venerable Rear did not care about his reputation and started begging for mercy. He did not want to die there. Admit defeat? I'm sorry, but this isn't an ordinary battle. This is a battle to the death. The Long Moon Azure Dragon Saber in Yi Tianyun's hand spun quickly. With his soul bloodline fully activated, a wave of power surged forward and crushed Great Star Venerable Rear's consciousness. At the same time, it also crushed Great Star Venerable Rear's body. When it was time to be ruthless, Yi Tianyun would not show mercy. Great Star Venerable Rear's soul was left behind. However, Great Star Venerable Rear's consciousness was no longer in this soul. It was just a mass of energy. He would not let go of a Great Star Venerable's soul. It would be a major material for puppets in the future. Ding. Successfully killed Great Star Venerable Rear. Obtained 1 billion star energy points and 1,000 slaughter points. Obtained 8-armed Divine Ape Star Dermic Aspect, Level 6, Level 4, 8-armed Divine Ape Bloodline, 8-armed limbs, rare. 8-armed limbs. Additional galaxy-grade equipment that can be equipped. It is equivalent to having 8 more arms and can control various weapons. At the same time, it can be forged to increase their power. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up when he saw the 8-armed limbs. He had not expected such a treasure to drop. This way, he would be able to equip it and fight against enemies in the future. 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. After equipping the 8-armed limbs, he would have 10 hands. After killing Great Star Venerable Rear, Yi Tianyun quickly left, leaving behind a group of dumbfounded cultivators. Especially those from the same clan as Great Star Venerable Rear. They were frozen in the air. Their elder had died. They had thought they could save the situation, but they had not expected him to die. This made them feel like they had been struck by lightning. Despair filled their hearts. The other cultivators had witnessed the Great Star Venerable's death. It had happened so quickly that they had not been able to react. Logically speaking, a battle between Great Star Venerables should not have been settled so easily. It should have taken a long time. No one had expected it to end so quickly. It had been an overwhelming victory. Thinking back to what Yi Tianyun had said, maybe he had masked not because he did not dare to show his face, but because he did not want those clans to run away when they saw him. Given his strength, why would he need to run? Why would he worry about making trouble? Anyone who saw him would run away. In the space inside Yi Tianyun's body, Kong Yue and the others were also dumbfounded. He had not even used the Star Dharma Laksana, and he had already killed his opponent? How did he do it? Senior Sister Kong, your helper is a bit fierce. This. Kong Yeyue said embarrassedly, I did not expect this. Isn't he the helper you invited? You don't know? Ding Xiangyue and the others were shocked. They had thought Kong Yeyue was familiar with Yi Tianyun. It's a long story. I'll explain it to you. Kong Yeyue told them the general story of how she was rescued, which really gave Ding Xiangyue and the others a fright. They didn't expect it to be such a coincidence. It just so happened that Yi Tianyun had a grudge against the Mu clan, so he saved Kong Yeyue. Otherwise, she would have been trapped inside. That's the gist of it. I asked him to help me find my companions. He was the first to sense you too, so he came to look for you. Who knew that you would be surrounded, so he helped, Kong Yeyue said. Now we really owe him a big favor. Ding Xiangyue thought for a while and said, I wonder how we can repay him. Yes, he asked us to help him resurrect his companions as a way to repay him. But this is far from enough. Kong Yeyue shook her head and smiled bitterly. As long as he can help us and save our clansmen, we will definitely repay him. Hong Yuan said confidently, We, the Death Clan, have a strong foundation. We can give him whatever he wants. Little Hong, you're thinking too simply. There are some things that can't be resolved with ordinary repayment, Kong Yeyue murmured. As long as he can find the princess, I am willing to be his slave for the rest of my life. I will do whatever he asks of me. Hong Yuan gritted his teeth and said, This is how I repay him. Chapter 2179. Yi Tianyun quickly retreated from the outside, so he naturally heard the conversation in the space inside his body. It wasn't that he wanted to eavesdrop, but it was impossible for him not to know what they were talking about in the space inside his body, unless he deliberately isolated it. This kid is a little interesting. Yi Tianyun smiled. He felt that Hong Yuan had a unique personality, and his name was familiar. He guessed that his name was similar to some people in the mortal world. There were so many cultivators, so it was normal for their names to be similar. Therefore, he had a deeper impression of Hong Yuan. He was absolutely genuine and extremely loyal to the Death Clan. No wonder Kong Yeyue said that there would be no traitors in the Death Clan. With their personalities, there wouldn't be any traitors. They were willing to sacrifice themselves at any time. This spirit alone was enough to prove that they were extremely united. While they were discussing, Yi Tianyun quickly found a safe place to land and let them out. Thank you for saving us, Lord. Once Ding Xiangyue and the others were released, they were extremely grateful to Yi Tianyun. They didn't call him young master, like Kong Yeyue did. You're welcome. This is what Miss Kong asked me to do. I have completed her task, Yi Tianyun said with a smile. This is different. No matter what, we have to thank you for saving our lives. If it weren't for you, both of us would have been captured. Ding Xiangyue and the others shook their heads. They felt that Yi Tianyun was being modest. Perhaps it was because they wanted what they needed, but who could save them like Yi Tianyun? The others were forced to do so. He could just capture them and resurrect them. There was no need to go through so much trouble. Just the way he treated them was enough to win their respect. Let's put this aside for now. Where should we go to rescue them? Let's gather your people first. If we delay any longer, your people might be captured by other forces like today. Yi Tianyun's expression was solemn. The situation was quite urgent. He didn't reveal his identity. As an assistant, he would help them first. He wanted to see what the real situation of the Death Clan was now. Even though Zhang Xian had learned part of the situation from Kong Yeyue, it was better to take a look at the situation of the entire Death Clan first. Kong Yeyue and the rest nodded in agreement. They were also very anxious, but no matter how anxious they were, they couldn't forget to thank Yi Tianyun. If they were in too much of a hurry, it would be rude to Yi Tianyun. All right. Let's head to the hiding place of the other clansmen. Kong Yeyue didn't waste any more time. She immediately flew forward with Yi Tianyun. She would talk about her gratitude after everything was over. Right now they were really anxious and couldn't afford to waste a single moment. Yi Tianyun kept them into the space within his body. He would lead the way, and Kong Yeyue would just have to point the way. This way they would travel much faster. Previously, Kong Yeyue led them personally, mainly because she wasn't that familiar with Yi Tianyun, so she felt a little embarrassed to hide in his space. Then, under Kong Yeyue's guidance, they quickly searched for the Death Clan. The whole process was very smooth. They could easily find many members of the Death Clan. Not every member of the Death Clan was found like Ding Xiangyue and the others. It depended on the situation, and even more so on luck. It couldn't be helped that they happened to be found. As they slowly searched, the number of members of the Death Clan increased. Soon, there were more than 50 of them. According to their understanding, there were only a few hundred members of the Death Clan. Right now, they had only found a small part of them. The reason why they found all of them was that they couldn't sense the traces of the other members of the Death Clan. Without a doubt, the Death Clan wasn't dead, nor did they disappear. They were just imprisoned, so they couldn't sense them. These families all knew the ability of the Death Clan. They knew that they could sense each other's location. Therefore, the best way was to imprison them. Of course, even if they didn't have the ability to sense each other, they would still imprison them to prevent other experts from finding them. On the way, they encountered some members of the Death Clan who were surrounded. Some were even escorted back to their families. These people were easily saved by Yi Tianyun. Sometimes, Yi Tianyun just grabbed them and left. He didn't want to waste time with them anymore. No, I can't sense the other members of the Death Clan for the time being. Kong Yeyue tried to sense carefully. After carefully sensing, she didn't find any similar fluctuations. The princess, we still can't find the princess. Has the princess really been taken away? Hong Yuan carefully checked the surrounding members of the Death Clan, but he didn't find any trace of the princess. They were most worried about the princess's situation. I'm afraid that's the case. Kong Yeyue's expression was solemn. This was the only situation at the moment. What should we do? We've lost all information. If we can't find the princess, we'll be in trouble. They all looked like they were about to cry. They thought that the princess would be able to escape successfully. Now, it seemed that this wasn't the case at all. Your princess can contact the elders of the Death Clan? Yi Tianyun raised his eyebrows and asked doubtfully. Not really, but the princess can open the door of death. If she is captured and forced to open the door of death, it will be terrible. Kong Yeyue shook her head and said, by then, not only will the princess die, even the world will be in chaos because of this. Maybe they won't force your princess to open the door of soul? Yi Tianyun said. No, I've thought about it for a long time these days. I feel that they are really here for the door of soul. After thinking about it, if the other party wants to resurrect their own people, they can just capture one or two of them, or ask some people to come over and pay a price. Now, they are trying to disperse the Death Clan. It's possible that they are here for the door of death. Kong Yeyue's expression became serious. You may not know what the door of death represents. There are countless souls in it. If they are released at will, the world will be in chaos. Don't think that they can be resurrected just because they are released. That's impossible. These disorderly souls will turn into vengeful spirits. They can't be resurrected even if they want to. I don't know why they are doing this. Maybe it's for some special purpose. Kong Yeyue didn't have many deductions, so she couldn't guess what the other party was really thinking. The door of death. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. This thing sounds so familiar. Isn't it the door of death in my inventory? Could it be that this door of death is for me to go to the area where the princess can go? No wonder she said it was dangerous. There are so many terrifying souls, how can it not be dangerous? Chapter 2180. The Door of Death. This was considered a direct contact. It seemed like his tools also existed here, and could be activated as well. However, he didn't need the special ability of the princess of the Death Clan to forcefully open the door. It was undeniably a heaven-defying ability. Is only your princess able to open the door of death? Yi Tianyun asked. Yes, but all of us can contact the door of death. We can't open it, but it's not a problem to just contact it. Otherwise, we can't revive our souls, Kong Yeyue answered honestly. This wasn't a big secret, so there was nothing to hide. Speaking of which, you have the holy body of darkness, but you're not a princess? I thought you were a princess when I saw you before. Tianyun was quite curious. Kong Yeyue's body was so heaven-defying, but she wasn't a princess. Kong Yeyue fell silent and didn't explain anything. You don't know about this benefactor. Actually, Senior Kong can be a princess, but there's only one princess. However, the princess is Senior Kong's elder sister, so it's very normal for them to have a similar body type, Hong Yuan added. The princess is your elder sister. Tianyun was a little confused. Logically speaking, both of them were princesses. It seemed like the title of princess was the same as the saintess. There was only one saintess, and she was the symbol of a clan. If Kong Yeyue was born later, she wouldn't be able to become a princess. However, as long as the princess abdicated, Kong Yeyue would definitely be able to take the throne. Yes, she's my elder sister. However, I don't have the ability to open the door of death, which is why I can't become a princess. Kong Yeyue shook her head and sighed. She wasn't jealous of her elder sister, but she felt that it was a pity that she didn't have the ability. So that's what happened. I thought that only a princess could have the ability to open the door of death. It seems like how many people can open it? Tianyun asked. Indeed, only a princess can open it. However, in history, there have been 2 clansmen who could open the door of death. It can be said that becoming a princess will definitely open the door to death, Kong Yeyue explained. Looks like we really have to find your princess as soon as possible. Otherwise, if something happens, there'll be nothing we can do. Tianyun nodded and felt that the situation was indeed quite serious. If they really opened the gate of death and allowed a large number of souls to come out, it might really bring disaster to the world. But now, we don't have the slightest clue. We can only find out by investigating some information. For example, find out which force has captured the Death Clan. That way, we might have a chance to find them. The Death Clan had been imprisoned, so it was extremely difficult to find them. They could only search for information. As long as they knew which faction had captured the Death Clan, they would be able to head over to rescue them. Even if the one they rescued wasn't the princess, they were still their own clansmen. This method was rather old-fashioned, but it was the only way at the moment. If the other party was extremely secretive, then there was nothing he could do. This is indeed a way, but the efficiency is too low. Tianyun shook his head. Yes, but there's no other way. We don't have any other way. Kong Yeyue and the others were all in despair. After going around in circles, it felt like they were still at the starting point. Tianyun nodded. That was true. At the same time, he was thinking about how to increase the efficiency. Thinking about it carefully, there really wasn't any. He wanted to use the lucky aura to find them, but the efficiency was also very low. He couldn't really find them just by flying around. After all, the area here was too big. It wasn't that easy to find them. The focus of the lucky aura was to go to a certain area and use it to find them. Like a headless fly, it would probably be difficult to find them. Lucky draw. Tianyun's eyes lit up. He remembered that he had accumulated 10,000 good and evil points, but he hadn't used it yet. Using this, he might be able to draw something related. Especially with the lucky aura, it would be even easier to use. Wait a minute. Let me think about it. Tianyun sat down and started to check the good and evil points system. He saw that his good and evil points had already reached more than 12,000. He had killed so many strong people and got a lot of kill points. He had accumulated more than 12,000 kill points. This meant that he could draw the lottery once. The reward of 10,000 kill points would be even more amazing. However, it was a bit of a loss to use it to find people. But now that things had come to this, he couldn't care less. The Death Clan would be his subordinate force in the future. It was necessary to make them whole again. If he helped them find them, he would be able to win more favorability points. People looked at each other. They didn't know what Tianyun wanted to do. Why did he suddenly sit down and say he needed to think about it? Didn't he know the situation was urgent and they needed to act quickly? Everyone looked at Kong Yeyue. Kong Yeyue shook her head. She didn't want to move and just listened to Tianyun. Their cultivations weren't high. They were all star venerables. If they moved carelessly, they would be caught together. So, they had to rely on Tianyun for the time being. Tianyun started the lottery. After activating the lucky aura, he started the lottery immediately. Ding. Are you sure you want to use 10,000 good and evil points to activate the second level of the lottery? The system's voice asked. Yes. Tianyun confirmed in his heart. Ding. 10,000 good and evil points are deducted. Lottery starts. With a pleasant sound, it started to flicker quickly. After flickering many times, the light finally dissipated. Then something popped out and appeared in front of Tianyun. It was a divine skill. It's a divine skill. Tianyun's eyes lit up. As long as it was a divine skill, it couldn't be bad. Shortly after, he opened the treasure, and a line of words entered his eyes, causing him to be slightly stunned. Super Appraisal Eye. Super Appraisal Eye. It can greatly strengthen the Appraisal Eye's effect. It can also find people. No matter how far they are, as long as you provide a name or blood, you can easily find their location. It can ignore all restrictions. At the same time, it can find spiritual herbs and materials. You can find their location by providing a name. Not bad. Chapter 2181. The function of the super appraisal eye had undoubtedly strengthened his appraisal eye. Not only could he find people, he could also find materials. This made him very satisfied. It seemed that the lottery this time was not a waste. At least, apart from finding people, he could also find materials and elixirs. If it was just to find people, it would be a waste. All along, he had not been looking for many people. It was always others who came to him. It was naturally a waste to list out one function. All right. Tianyun stood up under the puzzled gaze of the crowd. He looked around and smiled. We can start looking for people now. May I know the name of your princess? What's the name of our princess? Hong Yuan and the rest were startled. They did not know why Tianyun suddenly asked this question. What was the meaning of this? My sister is Kong Xingming. Kong Yeyue interrupted. Kong Xingming. Very good. After Tianyun said this, he raised his head slightly. His eyes started to emit a faint light. Very quickly, rays of light appeared in the distance. The people around him could not see these rays of light. Only Tianyun could see them. Those balls of light were not anything. Rather, they were all people by the name of Kong Xingming. In this world, there were so many living beings. There were trillions of them, so many that it was impossible to count them all. Therefore, no matter what name they had, they were all overused. Even if it was Tianyun, it was unknown how many millions of people had used it. Similarly, this name would also be used by others. Let's start with this. Tianyun's gaze focused on one of the rays of light. His pupils shrank slightly. Immediately, the scene around the ray of light appeared in his mind. It was an ordinary woman picking elixirs. He could clearly see the situation around him in a small circle, but it could not cover a large area. This ability made Tianyun very surprised. With just a slight glance, he could easily see the situation around him. Perhaps the range of coverage was not very wide, but at least he knew the situation around him. This was equivalent to having an additional ability to scout the enemy. Not only did he know where the enemy was, but he also knew who or what was around the enemy. He thought it was just a simple guide, but now it seemed that this ability was really powerful. Definitely not Kong Xingming from the Death Clan. Yi Tianyun immediately concluded that it wasn't her. Not to mention her looks, just based on her actions, it was obvious that she wasn't Kong Xingming. Kong Xingming must have been caught. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for her to harvest the elixirs. Moreover, it was impossible for his cultivation to be so low that Yi Tianyun could eliminate him in an instant. Then, he looked at the next one. The next one was called Kong Xingming, but it was a guy. Eliminated. If all the men were princesses, it would be really scary. Yi Tianyun searched and eliminated them one by one. Finally, he found something different in one of the balls of light. In this area, there was a person who looked similar to Kong Yeyue. She was trapped in a cage of light. This woman's eyes were filled with indifference. She looked outside the cage coldly and opened her mouth to say something. Without a doubt, she was the real Kong Xingming. Whether it was in terms of appearance, cultivation, or bloodline, she was definitely Kong Xingming. Yi Tianyun could detect the situation over there, but he couldn't hear what they were talking about. He didn't have such an ability for now. Yi Tianyun checked the surroundings and found that there was a sturdy cage around him. There were also 3 cultivators talking to Kong Xingming. Although he couldn't hear what they were saying, they looked very ferocious and seemed to be forcing her to do something. That's her. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He finally found the area where Kong Xingming was. What's going on? When they saw Yi Tianyun stand up suddenly, they felt a little strange. He had just sat down for a short while, but he suddenly stood up as though he had discovered something. I roughly know the location of your princess, Yi Tianyun said with a smile. What? They were all shocked. He could know the location just by sitting down and meditating? What was the principle behind this? They didn't see what Dharma treasure Yi Tianyun used, and he didn't carve a big array on the ground. He just sat down and he could sense the location. Could it be the legendary super spiritual force search? Even if one had an extremely strong spiritual force, he could clearly detect every corner along the way. However, this was only the legendary super spiritual force, which was treated as a joke by others. No one's spiritual force would be strong enough to cover every area, let alone penetrate every area. However, Yi Tianyun suddenly said that he had found it. Could it really be the super spiritual force? Which one of you wants to go with me? The rest of you can just stay here. This place is relatively safe. Yi Tianyun didn't bring everyone. He only brought 1 or 2 people with him, so that he could communicate with Kong Xingming. I will go, Kong Yeyue stood up and said. All right, you will go with me. Yi Tianyun nodded and said, You can stay here temporarily and wait for us to come back. Benefactor, can't we go together? Hong Yuan also wanted to go. He was also worried about the princess's situation. The area I am going to is more dangerous. If I bring too many people there, it won't be very convenient. If there is danger, I believe you know what will happen. Yi Tianyun reached out and patted Hong Yuan's shoulder. He smiled and said, Stay here. Hong Yuan wanted to say something but stopped. He could only watch them leave. After Yi Tianyun left, everyone started to discuss how Yi Tianyun found the princess. However, they didn't think that it was a lie. After all, he had saved so many of them. What was the point of lying to them? On the way, Kong Yeyue didn't say anything. She didn't ask Yi Tianyun how he knew. She just stayed silent. Aren't you going to ask me how I know? Yi Tianyun looked at Kong Yeyue and asked. No need. Since I trust you, I will choose to believe whatever you say. I only want the result. The process doesn't matter. Kong Yeyue smiled and said, You can say that I am being too casual. However, the Death Clan, once we have identified someone, we will not have any doubt. But in this case, aren't you being plotted against? Yi Tianyun said. Yes, but we will still choose to do this. Mutual trust is a truly worthy partner, and I think you're very trustworthy. Kong Yeyue didn't distrust Yi Tianyun. She didn't trust him before, but after a series of events, she completely trusted Yi Tianyun. Chapter 2182. Hearing Kong Yeyue's words, Yi Tianyun had a better impression of the Death Clan. Just based on their way of thinking, they were truly trustworthy companions. No wonder they could become the five-colored Emperor Dragon's divine general. With such quality, they were a level higher than most cultivators. Since you trust me so much, I won't let you down. Yi Tianyun smiled and kept Kong Yeyue in his spatial pocket. I will find your sister soon. Just wait patiently. Immediately, he flew at full speed toward the force that imprisoned Kong Xingming. As time passed, the light in front of him became brighter and brighter, indicating that he was getting closer to his target. After passing through a region, he came to a vast area. Looking ahead, he saw a huge city with many giant beasts patrolling in the sky. Above the giant beasts, there were guards stationed. Just the guards alone were far more than the other forces. When he saw clearly whose force it was, Yi Tianyun was startled. He immediately shook his head and smiled. What a coincidence! I didn't expect it to be so coincidental. The force in front of him was the Tian family. It was the family of Tian Yuan and Tian Xinhuan. He originally thought that he wouldn't have any interaction with the Tian family, but now Kong Xingming was in the Tian family. If it was the Lu family, then there was no need to mention it. Of course, it was impossible for the Lu family to exist. After all, Kong Yeyue was rescued from the Lu family. Now it was the Tian family. The Tian family didn't have any enmity with him, except for Tian Yuan and the others. Although he had some relationship with Tian Yuan, it didn't seem like Tian Yuan had any enmity with the Tian family. If there was any enmity, Tian Kuangyue did have some enmity with Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun had helped Tian Yuan, so Tian Kuangyue must have hated him to death. If he were to be seen, Tian Kuangyue would definitely be furious. If it wasn't for Yi Tianyun, how could Tian Yuan and the others escape? The Tian family, since things have reached this stage, I can only sneak in. Yi Tianyun didn't wish to have any conflict with the Tian family. Compared to the Lu family, the Tian family's strength can only be stronger. In his current state, he might not be able to win if he charged in. Thus, the best way was to sneak in. This was the best way. After looking around, he quietly slipped in from the side. However, just as he approached, he stopped. In front of him was an invisible energy wall. This was not a formation but a verbal compliance law executed by the Tian clan's Grand Star Venerate. This meant that if he wanted to enter, he would definitely be sensed by the verbal compliance law. Verbal compliance law was much easier to use than formations. The price one had to pay for it was also much lower. Now, it would be a little more difficult to sneak in. I thought I could sneak in, but now it looks like I'll have to go through the main entrance. Yi Tianyun had only sensed it when he got close to the door. The only thing he could do now was to turn around and go through the main entrance. As soon as he arrived at the main entrance, he was stopped by the guards. Who are you? The guard sized up Yi Tianyun with a stern expression. The guard riding on the giant beast also looked over. As long as Yi Tianyun tried to barge in, he would be killed without mercy. I'm here to visit the Tian clan. I have something to discuss with you, Yi Tianyun said calmly. Didn't you hear me clearly? Report your identity first. We don't even know who you are. How can we report you? Go and report. Yi Tianyun snorted in the guard's direction. The pressure of a Grand Star Venerate immediately surged over, forcing the guard to take several steps back and almost fall to the ground. Lord Grand Star Venerate. The guard was frightened. He was just a Star Venerate. If Yi Tianyun had not held back his power, this guard would have vomited blood. If it were a Star Venerate, he might not be a match for him, but he would not be so frightened. After all, a Star Venerate was not a powerhouse here. Only a Grand Star Venerate was a true powerhouse. If a Star Venerate showed his cultivation slightly, he could make the other side compromise quickly. He did not need to report his faction. His cultivation alone was enough for the guards to worship him and treat him as a distinguished guest. If a star venerate did this, he would probably be regarded as a troublemaker. Please wait for a moment. We will go and report. The guard went to report right away. He could communicate with the internal department through the communication jade token. After a short while, the guard came back. He said respectfully, "Sir, I have reported. I will take you in now." This was the difference between having power and not having power. If he had power, even if he was slapped, he would have to be respectful. Tianyun nodded and asked him to lead the way. The guard led them to the Tian clan's palace. Honored guests would be brought to this palace first. On the way, Tianyun quickly marked the place with a super teleportation divine stone. It did not cost a super teleportation divine stone to mark the place. He did it casually. That was why he marked the place along the way. In this way, he would have more choices when he came in. He had come in so boldly because he wanted to mark the place. Ordinary teleportation divine stones could not bring him in, but a super teleportation divine stone could. He was taken into the palace quickly. After a short while, a star venerable came over to receive him. "Sir, why have you come here? The elders have something to do, so they can't come out to receive you. You can tell me about it, and I will prepare it for you." The star venerable was also very respectful. He did not know why Tianyun had come here, but since a great star venerable had come here, something big must have happened. "What's the matter?" Tianyun squinted. It was obvious that he was talking with Kong Xingming. That was why he did not have time to come here. "Yes, it's something urgent, but I can decide many things. You can come to me." The star venerable in front of him was quite young. Apparently, he was a genius of the younger generation. His name was Tian Mulong. "Actually, it's nothing important. I heard you captured a member of the Death Clan. Can I see him?" Tianyun asked directly. It was simple and rude. "How did you know?" Tian Mulong blurted out in shock. "It seems I guessed right. You really captured a member of the Death Clan," Tianyun said with a faint smile. Tian Mulong's face darkened. He did not expect he had spilled the beans. "Don't be so nervous. The Tian clan is so powerful. I can't do it by force, can I? I came here this time to negotiate with you. I can pay you a high price to ask for your help. As for the details, I think it's better to let your elders discuss it. I don't think you can make the decision." Chapter 2183. Since Tianyun had said so, he was not afraid of being hunted down by the Tian family. If he had been a star venerable, he would have been killed immediately. However, he was a grand star venerable. He was qualified to negotiate. If his cultivation was too low, he would not have been qualified to negotiate. He would have been tortured. If his cultivation was too low, Tianyun would have used some other excuse to sneak in. He would not have said it so simply and crudely. If he wanted to sneak in, he would have to use many tricks. He chose the simplest and crudely. The Lu family was weaker than the Tian family. There were traps outside as well as all kinds of great formations. Even if Tianyun could be transported outside, he would have to force his way in. That was the princess of the Death Clan. How could they not strengthen their guard? Therefore, this was not an idiot's way. It was the most feasible way. If there was no other way, he could only be transported outside and sneak in. Tian Mulong looked at Tianyun in silence for a while. Then he nodded and said, "Wait here for a moment. I will go and ask." Tian Mulong did not know how Tianyun got the news, but he could only go and inform him in the current situation. This kind of matter was indeed not something that he could make the decision on. Tian Mulong hurried out to inform him. He left Tianyun to wait in the palace. He asked other attendants to come and serve him good tea. Soon, an old man walked in. Tian Mulong was very respectful behind him. Obviously, the person who could make the decision had come. The old man was a grand star venerable in the middle stage. He was powerful indeed. However, he was nothing in front of Yi Tianyun. My friend, can you tell me where you got the news? Tian Xingfeng's eyes were like torches, as if he wanted to see through Yi Tianyun's thoughts. What he wanted to know first was this matter, not who Yi Tianyun was, or what price Yi Tianyun had to pay. It seems that you are still very concerned about this matter. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly. Yes, we did it very discreetly. We thought that there were no other cultivators around. Even if there were, they would have disappeared completely. Tian Xingfeng's eyes were filled with killing intent. They didn't want other powers to know that they had the Death Clan. In fact, it wasn't just to prevent other forces from robbing them. More importantly, it was to prevent the Death Clan from discovering them. They didn't know if the experts of the Death Clan would come to rescue them. In any case, being cautious was always a good thing. Therefore, when they caught Kong Xingming, they killed all the cultivators around them. No matter what forces were behind them, they killed all of them. Now, Tian Xingfeng was thinking, did someone spread the news at that time? However, they immediately executed the verbal compliance law. Even if they had a message token, they would not be able to send the message out. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. You don't need to know where I got this information from. I just want to tell you that I don't know much. Yi Tianyun looked at Tian Xingfeng and said with a smile, I wonder what you're thinking now. Are you going to kill me? Tian Xingfeng stared at him for a while and said indifferently, if your cultivation was lower, I would really kill you. It seems that the news was leaked. But it's all right, it's within my expectations. Tian Xingfeng was quite straightforward. He had the same thought, but Yi Tianyun's cultivation was not low. It seems that you've accepted my request? Yi Tianyun squinted his eyes slightly. No, I didn't say that. I just came out to meet you. There are many clansmen of the Death Clan scattered outside. You can go out and try your luck. Your request is to resurrect your own people. The other Death Clan members can do the same. After Tian Xingfeng rejected, he added, I can provide you with a way to capture them. It's to use light attribute treasures. This way, it'll be much easier to search. It's not the same. The ones you've captured are different from the Death Clan outside. Yi Tianyun said indifferently, there are some things that I don't need to be too straightforward. Since I've come to find you, I know that the ones you've captured are different. What you can provide me is different. As soon as he finished speaking, a murderous intent surged towards him. Yi Tianyun just smiled and didn't care about the murderous intent at all. It seems that you know a lot. Tian Xingfeng stared at Yi Tianyun. His murderous intent gradually calmed down and he didn't deny anything. Since he said so, it meant that he came prepared. Then, there was no need for him to hide anything. I know a little more. You don't need to be too hostile towards me. As long as my conditions are met, I can guarantee that no one else will know about the situation here. Yi Tianyun said confidently. He didn't lie. He was the only one who knew. Tian Xingfeng looked at him for a while and said, Tell me, what do you want to do? Obviously, he had compromised. Let's meet first. I want to see the princess of the Death Clan. I want to see what's going on. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly and said, I wonder if this is enough to satisfy me? Sure. Follow me. Tian Xingfeng didn't waste any more time. He turned around and walked outside. Yi Tianyun quickly followed. Tian Mulong could only stay here. What happened next was not something he could manage. Tian Xingfeng didn't want to talk to him. If he could, he wanted to kill Yi Tianyun directly. Under the guidance of Tian Xingfeng, they quickly came to a tunnel that led underground. This was not surprising. Normally, treasuries or important people would be locked underground. This way, it would be more secretive. In the outside world, it wouldn't be easy to find out. Not long after, they came to a door. After Tian Xingfeng made a few hand signs, the door opened slowly. He led Yi Tianyun inside. Yi Tianyun was so calm because he saw that Kong Xingming was inside. He didn't want to take him to another area. After walking around, they finally came to a door. He pushed it open and took him in. What came into view was a huge cage with 2 grand star venerables at its sides. When they came in, the conversation stopped abruptly and everyone looked in their direction. Tianyun didn't care about their gazes. He looked up at Kong Xingming. Kong Xingming was sitting in the center of the cage with a calm face. She didn't panic because she was caught. She didn't beg for mercy. She just sat there quietly. It's sister. Kong Yue was pleasantly surprised in the space inside Tianyun's body. She didn't expect to find her. Chapter 2184. Kong Yue was very happy to see her sister. Tianyun did not feel anything. He knew that Kong Xingming was here, so he would not be excited. Everything was within his expectations. It proved that the effect of the super appraisal I was unparalleled. When Kong Xingming saw Tianyun come in, she did not feel anything. In her opinion, he was on the same side as the Tian family. Why did you bring him in? Tian Yueming's eyes turned cold. He had not expected Tian Xingfeng to bring Tianyun in. Tianyun looked in the direction of the voice and found Tian Yueming to be very familiar. If he looked carefully, he did look a bit similar to Tian Xinghuan and Tian Yuan. To be more precise, Tian Yuan looked more similar to him. He immediately determined that Tian Yueming was Tian Yuan and Tian Xinghuan's father. He had a high position here, and was a late-stage star venerable. It was indeed a shocking cultivation. No wonder both of his children were great star venerables. He knows that we caught the princess, Tian Xingfeng said honestly. What? On the side, Tian Xingxue was shocked, and her reaction was even more intense than theirs. That's impossible. Back then, I killed everyone, not leaving a single one alive. No one was able to send a message out. As a female cultivator, Qing Shui was also very ruthless. He did not expect that the one who caught Kong Xingming would be Qing Shui. Tianyun thought it was Tian Yueming and the others who caught the princess. It turned out that it was Qing Shui who caught the princess. However, no matter who caught the princess, it was the Tian family. But he already said that we captured the princess. How could he be wrong? Tian Xingfeng said calmly. Obviously, there was a fish that escaped the net. It's that simple. Tian Xingfeng slapped the door behind him. With a loud bang, the door behind him was shut. What? You want to fight? Tianyun looked at Tian Xingfeng's angry expression, but he still had a calm expression. There was nothing that could make him feel afraid. Even though there were 3 grand star venerables here, there was nothing to be afraid of. If I wanted to fight, I would have done it a long time ago. Why would I bring you here? Tian Xingfeng snorted coldly, feeling extremely displeased. Tianyun was not just a grand star venerable. They were more concerned about the faction behind him. A force with a grand star venerate was certainly not simple. The fact that Tianyun could come here openly meant that he was prepared. Perhaps that faction knew that Tianyun was coming. If Tianyun didn't return, the result would be obvious. At this critical juncture, no one wanted to make any mistakes. The Violet Gold Divine Pavilion was about to open. If something big were to happen now, the Violet Gold Divine Pavilion might not be able to enter and the losses would be even greater. Looks like you're still quite rational. Tianyun shrugged. The other 2 elders looked gloomy. They had also thought a lot. In the end, they could only choose to compromise. All right, don't be so long-winded. The princess is here. You can look around. She was just captured by us and didn't do many things well. What can you get from her? What can you make her do? Tian Xingfeng said in a deep voice, I'll give you some time. Do whatever you want to do. Don't forget what you said. They had just been captured and didn't know many things. They couldn't make Kong Xingming do anything. They could only stare at her and couldn't do anything else. All right. I'll start now. Tianyun took a step forward. Looking at Kong Xingming, he said, What's the situation with the Death Clan? Kong Xingming glanced at him indifferently. She didn't answer. She remained silent. Don't be silly. You won't get anything out of her. We've been asking her for a long time. She doesn't even know how to answer. Tian Xingfeng said sarcastically, You can't go back on your word. We've given you a chance. It's up to you to take it. What price do I have to pay in exchange for her? Yi Tianyun asked. What do you want to pay for her? Tian Xingfeng was struck dumb. Then he said with a cold smile, You want to pay for her? No problem. Give me several star venerable level treasures, several batches of divine herbs, and 1 or 2 members of the Death Clan. We'll pay for her right away. Can I understand that you're demanding an exorbitant price? Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold. Star venerable level treasures were extremely rare. Even on the vast red moon planet, there weren't many of them. Now he was asking for several of them. How could he not be demanding an exorbitant price? You said you wanted to pay for her. This is the price. She's a princess, not an ordinary member of the Death Clan. If you can get her with an ordinary price, give her to me, and I'll pay for her. Tian Xingfeng wore a sarcastic look on his face. It was obvious that he wanted to humiliate him. He wouldn't attack Yi Tianyun, but it wouldn't be a problem for him to humiliate him. He didn't believe Yi Tianyun would start a family war because of this. It seems we can't make a deal. So, forget it, Yi Tianyun said calmly. I'll just ask you a few questions. I won't say anything else. Fine. Don't ask me a few questions. You can ask me dozens of questions. I'm curious to see what you can do. Tian Xingfeng crossed his arms, as if he was waiting for a good show. Tian Yueming and the others didn't say anything. They just watched from the side. Your younger sister is in my hands, Yi Tianyun suddenly said. Kong Xingming's calm expression finally changed a little. She stared at Yi Tianyun and said, I advise you not to act recklessly. Anger and murderous intent filled the depths of her eyes. The dark energy in her body surged. However, it was firmly sealed by the cage, and the energy couldn't spread out. It had to be said that she was quite powerful. She was an early-stage star venerable, much stronger than Kong Yeyue. However, she was still captured despite her cultivation. She was in a bad state. She was obviously injured. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been captured so easily. Everyone was attracted by Yi Tianyun's words. Capturing Kong Xingming's younger sister was not a simple matter. Great. You captured the younger sister of a princess, and now you're targeting us? Tian Xingfeng was getting more and more annoyed. He had the Death Clan, yet he still came here to mess around. Actually, I lied to her. I didn't capture her younger sister at all. Yi Tianyun shrugged his shoulders. Didn't you say that I couldn't get anything out of her? Now I get it out of her. She has a younger sister. Tian Xingfeng was so frustrated that he wanted to vomit blood. It seemed that it was true. Kong Xingming stared at him for a while, then fell silent again. She didn't move. She hoped that Yi Tianyun was really lying to her. Looks like I can't get anything out of her. I'll leave now. Yi Tianyun quickly set up the teleportation sign and got ready to leave. Chapter 2185. If Yi Tianyun wanted to leave, they would come to stop him. Yi Tianyun's face is indifferent, this situation is not unexpected, and he doesn't panic. Everything was within his expectations. Even if they attacked immediately, he wouldn't be surprised at all. What? Do you want to silence us? Yi Tianyun asked calmly. I wouldn't go so far as to silence you. However, our Tian family is not a place where you can come and go as you please. We allowed you to come in and take a look. If you leave just like that, wouldn't our Tian family suffer a great loss? Tian Yueming said calmly, Our Tian family might not be the top 3 in Scarlet Moon Star, but it is definitely in the top 5. What do you want to do then? Yi Tianyun asked. It's simple. We will form an alliance. We don't know what force you are from, but I don't think it will be too weak. Tian Yueming suggested, I believe you know that the Purple Gold Divinity Pavilion is about to appear. How about we join forces when the time comes? Tian Yueming started to rope in Yi Tianyun. He seemed to have thought of something and decided to join forces with Yi Tianyun. He did not have a good impression of Yi Tianyun at first. However, he had probably thought of something during the process and decided to join forces with Yi Tianyun. In other words, you want to use the alliance as the price? Yi Tianyun squinted his eyes at him. No, to be precise, this is something I came up with on the spur of the moment. Our Tian family is not weak. Do you think we will mistreat you if you form an alliance with us? Tian Yueming said, I only wish for our two clans to obtain more benefits from the Purple Gold Divine Pavilion. What about the Liu family? Yi Tianyun asked. The Liu family? Tian Yueming smiled faintly. Of course, the Liu family will also participate. If the three families act together, I believe that we will be able to take a large portion of the treasures that appear in the Purple Gold Divinity Pavilion. Towards the end, his eyes shone brightly. That kind of strong possessiveness and confidence really made people feel a great shock. After all, the Tian family's forces were not bad. If they teamed up, it would be a win-win situation. Of course, this was under the premise that he would not be stabbed. What if I refuse? Yi Tianyun smiled. If you refuse, we won't force you. Hand over a galaxy-grade treasure, and you can leave. Tian Yueming's attitude gradually turned cold. That's not a high request, is it? At least we let you in and in our secret room. To let you leave so casually, isn't that not taking our Tian family seriously? Tian Yueming's request wasn't excessive, but it wasn't kind either. But what if I were to say that I'm alone, without any backing? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Yi Tianyun's words startled them. They really hadn't thought about this problem. Could an independent cultivator outside cultivate to the level of a Grand Star Venerable? They did not believe this. If he wanted to break through to the Grand Star Venerable realm, talent alone was not enough. He needed a huge amount of resources. Otherwise, he would not be able to improve. They all knew this. Only by using all kinds of divine medicines could he improve his cultivation. Otherwise, how could he improve? For the first time, they felt that Yi Tianyun was lying to them. Friend, it's meaningless to say this. We don't believe you don't have any backing, Tian Yueming said, shaking his head. In fact, it was true that Yi Tianyun was strong. However, compared to the Tian family, he was much weaker. They could not be compared at all. In such a situation, even if he cooperated sincerely, he would not be able to go against the upper echelons. I do have a backing, but it's too weak. I built it all by myself. In such a situation, it's no different from saying that I'm alone. Yi Tianyun was not lying. They looked at Yi Tianyun. They believed him, but they did not believe that Yi Tianyun did not have any powerful support. It was not uncommon for some clans' experts to go out and establish their own sections. Seeing their doubtful expressions, Yi Tianyun said with a smile, If you don't mind, I plan to join you. I wonder if you will agree? Since the other party had invited him, he decided to agree. He was very willing to have someone open a path for him, especially with a great clan's help. Why wouldn't he reap the benefits? However, the situation was not that simple. If he schemed against the Tian family, wouldn't the Tian family schemed against him too? In the end, they were just using each other. Tian Yueming looked at him for a while and suddenly laughed. Haha, since you said so, let's cooperate. You are a Grand Star Venerable. You are so strong. It's a good choice to recruit you as an ally. Let's have a pleasant cooperation, Yi Tianyun said with a faint smile. Let's have a pleasant cooperation. Is there anything else you want to ask her? Tian Yueming's attitude became cordial. Not yet. Yi Tianyun didn't want to ask anything. He had just come to mark the teleportation point. Then please go upstairs. Our Tian family will treat you well. If you have any more questions, you can come down at any time, Tian Yueming said with a smile. Okay. I won't stand on ceremony. Yi Tianyun smiled. Then he ordered someone to take him upstairs. The three of them didn't leave. Second elder, what do you mean? Tian Xingfeng and the others were dumbfounded. They didn't know what Tian Yueming meant. Nothing. Isn't it a good thing to recruit cannon fodder? Tian Yueming said calmly. You know the situation of the purple gold divine pavilion. It's a good choice to send a grand star venerable to die. Our Tian family isn't a place that can be entered easily. We can't be threatened. Towards the end, Tian Yueming's eyes were filled with killing intent. Send someone to investigate his identity. Investigate his identity thoroughly. Okay. The two of them understood immediately. No wonder Tian Yueming changed his mind. It turned out that he was thinking about the purple gold divine pavilion. It was a good thing to have a grand star venerable to help them. Especially a grand star venerable. It would be easier to make use of him. While they were making plans, Yi Tianyun was also making plans after going upstairs. This way, saving Kong Xingming would be much easier. He just had to stay here, and after he rescued Kong Xingming, no one would suspect him. You want to make use of me? I don't know who is making use of who. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. He knew what Tian Yueming was thinking. They were just making use of each other. It all depended on who made use of the other first. Chapter 2186. When Yi Tianyun returned to the VIP lounge, the Tian clan started to treat him with all kinds of wine and tea. They even provided him with all kinds of beauties. Yi Tianyun took all of them. He did not let any of them go. Since they were all given to him, he would not waste them. Of course, he did not care about the beauties. He was not interested in them. Yi Tianyun let Kong Yeyue out when he sensed that there was no one around. Young Master Yi, it will be difficult to save my elder sister. Kong Yeyue frowned. It was too difficult to save Kong Xingming with 3 grand star venerables guarding below. If they made a move, they would be attacked by 3 grand star venerables at once. It was not hard to imagine how difficult it would be. It's not difficult, Yi Tianyun said with a faint smile. Leave it to me. Tell Kong Xingming so that she won't think I'm an enemy. However, your elder sister cares about you. She responded immediately when I mentioned your name. Of course my elder sister cares about me. Kong Yeyue's eyes were filled with worry. She was worried about her elder sister, too. But young Master Yi, how are you going to save her? There are so many grand star venerables guarding below. It won't be easy to save my elder sister. Kong Yeyue was still worried about how to save her elder sister. Why don't we go back and discuss it? We can find our elders. If we can find them, we can come back to save her. Judging from the current situation, they won't attack my elder sister. It was not that Kong Yeyue did not trust Yi Tianyun. It was just that Yi Tianyun would be taking a risk if he went there with so many grand star venerables. It seems that you don't trust me? Yi Tianyun said with a smile. It's too dangerous. Kong Yeyue shook her head and said, I told you before. I can't let young Master Yi take a risk. It's enough that you know where my elder sister is. Leave the rest to us. You've helped us a lot. We can't let young Master Yi take a risk. This isn't about risking your life. Have you forgotten how I saved you back then? Yi Tianyun said with a smile. The Lu clan is not as powerful as the Tian clan, but they have many grand star venerables. I sneaked in anyway. That's true, but there are so many grand star venerables down there. When will they come out? Kong Yeyue frowned and said, If they don't come out, we won't have a chance either. Especially after we sneak in and discover that they're still there, then we'll have made a wasted trip. This was undoubtedly the most awkward situation. They had gone through so much trouble to sneak in, but they were still stuck inside. How were they supposed to save them? Tianyun, of the Tianyun of Tianyun, said of venerables was, What? Tianyun, but... Kong Yeyue wanted to say something, but she stopped when she saw Yi Tianyun's confident look. Thank you, young Master Yi. If you can save my elder sister and help the Death Clan, I'm willing to serve you for the rest of my life. Kong Yeyue was just like Hong Yuan. She was willing to sacrifice herself for the Death Clan. Sacrificing oneself could save the entire Death Clan. That was very worthwhile. Yi Tianyun appreciates this kind of teamwork. That's a good idea. But that's not all I'm asking for, said Yi Tianyun with a faint smile. What do you mean? Kong Yeyue was stunned. She did not know what Yi Tianyun meant. Yi Tianyun said calmly, saving you is related to me. You'll know in the future. Our Death Clan is related to young Master Yi? Kong Yeyue seemed to have thought of something, but she could not figure it out. Let's not talk anymore. Get ready to act. Yi Tianyun gestured to her not to ask any more questions. Instead, he hid in his body space. He stayed here for a period of time until they left. Through the super appraisal eye, he could easily see the situation over there. He could clearly see who was in the vicinity of Kong Xingming. Now, the three of them had finally left. Feeling that they could not get any more information, they could only leave for the time being. Perhaps it was to think of other ways. When they left, Yi Tianyun would be able to act quickly. Taking advantage of this gap, he had to act quickly. Kong Yeyue was stunned. She did not expect him to act so quickly. Didn't he check the surroundings first? For example, checking the surroundings to see if Tian Xingfeng and the others had returned. But Yi Tianyun had been staying here the whole time. Why did he act so quickly? Before she could react, Yi Tianyun had already pulled her into his body space. Then, he used the super teleportation God Stone to quickly arrive at the secret room. It could ignore all kinds of restrictions, and all kinds of restrictions were ineffective. It would be great if he could use the ordinary teleportation God Stone. Unfortunately, he could not use the ordinary teleportation God Stone. The powerful restrictions could not teleport over. He could only use the super teleportation God Stone. In an instant, he arrived at the secret room. This effect made Yi Tianyun very satisfied. If he could have a few more of these super teleportation Godstones, he would be able to teleport at will. Now that he had used it once, it would be one less time. The sudden appearance of Yi Tianyun in the secret room stunned Kong Xingming. She did not expect that Yi Tianyun would suddenly appear in front of her. Yi Tianyun observed the cage quickly, trying to figure out how to break it. He had to admit that it would be very difficult to break it. Since Kong Xingming had a higher cultivation, it would take some effort to seal her. It would not be as easy as locking up Kong Yeyue. Kong Yeyue was just using absolute speech law to imprison her. Kong Shengjue's cultivation was at the level of a great star venerable. If she used absolute speech law to imprison her, wouldn't it be easily broken? Then Yi Tianyun released Kong Yeyue. When Kong Yeyue showed up, both of them were stunned. Kong Xingming did not expect her younger sister to show up here. Kong Yeyue did not expect her to come in so quickly. Everything happened in an instant. She did not even know what was going on. She had snuck in. Say something. Yi Tianyun gestured to Kong Yeyue to say something. He did not want her to stand there in a daze. Time was pressing. If the elders came to find him, it would be troublesome. Right now, his super appraisal eyes were constantly observing their situation. He found that they were discussing this matter in the sacred hall. Fortunately, they did not come to him. Otherwise, he would have to leave immediately. However, given the current situation, Tian Yueming and the others would invite him over soon. Elder sister, we are coming to save you now, Kong Yeyue said after coming to herself. He is our helper. He snuck in to save you. Kong Yeyue explained the general situation to Yi Tianyun so that she could help him better. Chapter 2187. Kong Xingming did not say anything more. Since her younger sister had said so, she would not ask for more details. The more she asked, the more time would be wasted, and the more difficult it would be to act. Although she had a lot of questions in her mind, such as why Kong Yeyue was with Yi Tianyun, or how did Yi Tianyun come here before. She didn't ask any of them. She just wanted to ask them when they came out. How much power can you exert now? Yi Tianyun asked. I'm confined now. I can only exert the power of an average star venerable. I can't exert any power higher than that. Kong Xingming pondered for a moment before continuing. I have some ideas about the confinement array here. Currently, I can only see the eye of the array. It will take some time to break it. But it will take me a long time to crack it. I don't know when they will come down. Kong Xingming told him what she knew, so that Yi Tianyun could make a decision. At the same time, she pointed out where the formation I was so that Yi Tianyun could know where it was. Yi Tianyun nodded and said with a faint smile, I know. But that is not the point. You just need to cooperate with me. When I start to crack the formation eye, you keep attacking for me. If we work together, we can crack the formation eye faster. But I have only found one formation eye. What about the others? Kong Xingming asked, confused. I have found all the other formation eyes, Yi Tianyun explained. Kong Xingming and Kong Yeyue were shocked. What is going on? How long has it been? Yi Tianyun has found all the formation eyes? Yi Tianyun had never met them before. He had only stayed here for a while. Kong Xingming had found one formation eye only because she was trapped here. She had to use her spare time to find it. It took her a lot of effort. But now, Yi Tianyun was telling them that he had found all the array cores. Was this a joke? Yi Tianyun did not care about their thoughts. He took a step forward and arrived in front of one of the formation cores. This formation core was also the one that Kong Xingming had pointed out. He could see that he could easily find it just by relying on his appraisal eyes. All this time, he had been able to easily find the eye of the formation. However, finding it was one thing, and whether or not he could break it was another. Right now, he was only a rank 3-star inscription master. Although it was difficult for him to break the seal, he could still level up. Coincidentally, he had quite a lot of star energy right now, so advancing to the rank of an astral tattoo master was not a problem at all. Raise my astral rune master rank. Ding. After deducting star energy, astral inscription master has been successfully promoted to rank 4. At first, he didn't want to level up. However, the lowest standard here is level 4. The foundation of the Tian family isn't bad. Get ready to start. When I tell you to attack, attack quickly. Understand? Yi Tianyun's tone became serious. This was a race against time. Once he started to break the array, Tian Yueming and the others would definitely notice it and rush over. If he couldn't break the array before they arrived, it would be a failure. Yi Tianyun couldn't teleport in. The super teleportation stone had a drawback, and that was it could only be used to set coordinates in the area where he was standing. If he could directly set the coordinates in the cage, he would be invincible. He could directly teleport in and quickly bring the person away. However, he couldn't do that. He could only set the coordinates outside. If one day he had such a special super teleportation stone, he would be invincible. Understood. Kong Xingming nodded. Then what do I need to do? Kong Yeyue asked from the side. You don't need to do anything. Just leave the matters here to the two of us. Yi Tianyun shook his head. All right. Kong Yeyue was a little disappointed. She thought that she could help, but who knew that she didn't need to do anything? She hoped that she could be of some help. After all, the person locked inside was her sister. However, since Yi Tianyun had said so, she could only give up. Are you ready? Yi Tianyun looked at Kong Xingming with a sharp gaze. This isn't an easy task. Thus, everything must be done without any mistakes. If there's any mistake, they would fall into a state of failure. I'm ready. Kong Xingming nodded. Yi Tianyun nodded. He immediately aimed at one of the array cores and began to break it. His speed was pushed to the maximum. Even his crazy mode was activated, causing his breaking speed to increase by 25 times. The breaking speed was 25 times faster than normal, which made them dizzy. This breaking speed was really too fast. They had never seen such a fast breaking speed. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the array cores were broken. In 2 blinks of an eye, the array was almost broken. At this time, Tianyun quickly moved to the next array core. At the same time, he said to Kong Xingming, "Start to attack that array core." Only then did Kong Xingming react, and he quickly started to destroy the formation core. After a series of fierce attacks, the array core was easily destroyed. These array cores require some external force from the inside. Then, it would be easier to destroy them completely. Most importantly, it would be much faster if external force was needed to destroy them. If it was purely based on breaking, the speed would not be slow. However, compared to the attacks from the inside, it would still be slower. While she was destroying the array core, Tianyun was almost breaking another array core. "Come on!" Tianyun moved to the next array core at an amazing speed. Kong Xingming and the others were stunned for a while. They felt that it was too fast. Almost in an instant, Tianyun had broken all the array cores. Just as he said, he had found all the array cores. They were shocked by his ability to find the array cores so accurately. Along the way, the array cores were destroyed one after another. It was just a short time. At the same time, Tianyun quickly sensed that the array cores were destroyed. At first, he did not care much about it. In his opinion, it should be Kong Xingming who was destroying the array cores and trying to sneak out. However, he was very confident in his array and felt that Kong Xingming would not destroy it. Just when he thought that everything was fine, he felt that the array core was destroyed in a short time, and the next one was destroyed quickly. This made him extremely shocked. He immediately stood up and said, "Several array cores have been destroyed in a row." Tian Xingfeng and the others were stunned and did not know how to react. Several array cores had been destroyed in such a short time. What kind of ability was that? Could it be that Kong Xingming still had some unknown power that would burst out when they were away? Chapter 2188. Tian Yueming and the others dashed down as fast as they could. They arrived in front of the treasury in an instant and opened the gate quickly. However, the speed at which the gate was opening was rather slow. It could only be opened bit by bit, which really made them unhappy. They had never thought the gate would open so slowly. "Don't worry. Even if she breaks the prison formation, she will still be trapped in the treasury. There is only one passage in the treasury. If she wants to escape, she will have to go through it." Tian Yueming had panicked at first. After all, he had spent a lot of effort to set up the formation, but it had been broken so quickly. No matter what, he was still a little nervous. However, when he calmed down, he found there was no need to be so nervous. There was only one passage. Why should he be so nervous? Kong Xingming was a Grand Star Venerable, but they had 3 Grand Star Venerables. Besides, they had a large number of experts outside and the support of the formation. In such circumstances, even if Kong Xingming was a late-stage Star Venerable, she would still be able to keep her here. Therefore, they calmed down after thinking about it for a while. It's just that the speed at which she broke them is too fast. Could it be that she took advantage of the fact that we weren't around to investigate all the array cores? Tian Yueming frowned. He was very confident in his own abilities as a Star Rune Master. Even if he wanted to find the eye of the formation, it would take a very long time. Even if they found the formation eyes, it would take them a long time to break the formation eyes. However, they had not expected it to be broken in such a short time. During this period of time, almost all of the array cores had been destroyed. There was only one last array core left. It's too fast. It's too fast. This is simply a miracle among star inscriptionists. Even an extremely high-level star inscriptionist wouldn't be able to break through it so quickly. We must completely control this princess of the Death Clan. Tian Yueming's eyes were filled with greed. Right now, he was thinking about how to control Kong Xingming. They had to use some special methods to turn her into a puppet. Even if she was a puppet without her own soul, they still had such a method. However, they would have to pay a high price to do so. Of course, they thought it was worth it to deal with Kong Xingming. That's too fast. It's a pity that when she escapes and finds out that we're all waiting outside, her expression will be so laughable. Tian Xingfeng laughed out loud. He had spent so much effort to escape, only to see them waiting outside. What was the difference between this and not escaping at all? If that was the case, he might as well stay in the cage obediently, and he wouldn't have to waste so much energy. If he dared to play like this without a foolproof plan, it would be a waste of effort. After they opened the door, they walked in unhurriedly. After thinking it through, they were naturally not so worried. When they arrived outside the gate, they did not rush to push the door open. Instead, they stood outside the gate, ready to grab anything. He was waiting for Kong Xingming to rush out and then he would control her. Is it done? Tian Xingfeng asked from the side. It's been destroyed a long time ago. Not long after we entered, it was already destroyed. It's just that she hasn't rushed out yet. She's probably resting inside or preparing something. Tian Yueming said indifferently, We'll wait outside and see when she comes out. The three of them nodded. Then they started to wait. However, after they had waited for a while, Kong Xingming still hadn't come out. They did not know what she was doing outside. Has she stayed inside for too long? Is she going to ambush us inside? They were all confused. Theoretically, after breaking the formation, she should have escaped immediately. If she hadn't escaped, what was the point of breaking the formation? It's possible. She probably thinks it's easy to be ambushed if she escaped directly. So she just hides inside and waits for us to go in. Then she can ambush us. Tian Xingfeng nodded. He thought that was the case. Fine. Let's go in directly. It's meaningless to stay outside, Tian Yueming said with a cold smile. Let's go in together and see what kind of ambush she has. I want to see what she's capable of. The other two star venerables nodded. They were ready to go in together. Then Tian Yueming pushed the gate open and went in with his men. After they rushed in, they found that there was not a single person inside. Everything was empty. Not to mention an ambush, there was no one there. How could they catch her? What's going on? Where is she? They were all dumbfounded. They had thought Kong Xingming was hiding there to ambush them. Turned out they had thought too much. She had disappeared. Is she hiding outside? Tian Xingfeng said, frowning. You go there and look for her. I'll check the room here. I'll see if there's any special ability hiding here. Tian Yueming's voice became cold. He would not allow such a thing to happen. They had finally caught the princess. How could they let her go? Then they started to look for Kong Xingming. After looking around, they had checked every corner and every detail. However, they had not found her. There was not even a trace of her aura. She really disappeared. She completely disappeared. They were all dumbfounded. They had thought they could watch the show from outside. Now they were the ones being watched. How did she do it? Does she have some special treasures? But that's not right. We've found all her treasures. There's nothing there. Did she open the gate of death? Impossible. If she opened the gate of death, not only would her aura come out, but she would also not be able to enter the gate of death. Entering the gate of death is no different from dying. Tian Yueming shook his head. He knew what the gate of death represented. A living person entering it was no different from courting death. If that's not the case, where is she? They did not know how to explain. No matter what, she had disappeared. All their efforts had been in vain. While they were confused and angry, Tianyun had already brought his people back to the room. There was no pressure at all. When he saw them standing guard outside the door, he laughed out loud. If he had known that they were lying in ambush outside, he would not have been so anxious. He could have taken his time. They had been guarding outside for a long time. If they were to break the formation, they could break 2 or 3 more. This was not an exaggeration. It was indeed so. They had been guarding outside for a long time. They did not rush in. However, it had nothing to do with him. Before they came in, Tianyun had already broken the formation. Chapter 2189. After Kong Xingming and Kong Yeyue talked for a while, they gradually calmed down and looked at Tianyun. "Thank you, young Master Yi, for saving me. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to get out." Kong Xingming was very grateful. She was even more grateful when she learned that Tianyun had saved many of her clansmen. "This is what Miss Kong Yeyue asked me to do, and due to the seriousness of the situation, I decided to save you. If someone uses you to open the door of death, my forces will also be affected." Tianyun smiled faintly. "Besides, I have some relationship with the Death Clan." "Young Master, he has some relationship with our Death Clan?" Kong Xingming was a little puzzled. She didn't know Tianyun, and this was the first time she met him. Kong Yeyue looked over. She was curious about why Tianyun said that, but Tianyun didn't explain, so she didn't quite understand what he meant. Tianyun still kept them in suspense. "Let's not talk about this for now. You will know in the future." He still didn't intend to say it. He still had to continue to investigate the Death Clan situation. It was better not to expose it until the critical moment. This way, he could see more things. If he was exposed, the Death Clan would definitely be very respectful. This way, he wouldn't be able to see more of the real situation. Now, he could see a lot of the Death Clan situation, such as the spirit of living and dying together. Since Tianyun said so, even if they were curious, they could only suppress it. "Young Master Yi, you are really mysterious." Kong Xingming looked at Tianyun deeply. She didn't know what Tianyun was planning, but she felt that he should have some special purpose. Otherwise, why would he be so proactive and even take such risks? If he wanted to resurrect his own people, saving 1 or 2 would be enough. Why would he help so much? Did he want the Death Clan to submit to his forces? This was obviously impossible. It was impossible for them to join any force. No matter what force it was, they didn't intend to join. "I still need to have a little sense of mystery." Tianyun laughed and said, "Let's go save the others, it's time to leave this place. But before that, I still have to deal with some people." Tianyun narrowed his eyes and quickly stored them into the space within his body. Following that, Tian Yueming's deep voice came from outside. "I wonder if my friend can come out to meet me?" Tianyun pushed open the door and saw Tian Yueming waiting outside. There were also guards beside him. These guards were there to keep an eye on him, to prevent him from leaving the gate at will. "What's wrong?" Tianyun walked out calmly. "Besides you, is there anyone else who knows that our Tian family has captured the princess of the Death Clan?" Tian Yueming asked directly. "There aren't many people who know about it, but there aren't few either. However, I have a good relationship with them. As long as I make them shut their mouths, they won't expose the situation here." Tianyun casually made up an excuse. If anyone really knew that Kong Xingming was imprisoned here, no one would know about it. The Tian family had done it flawlessly, and no information was leaked. "Don't worry. After I go back, I will ask them not to spread the news. After all, we have formed an alliance. No matter what, we cannot let our allies be affected. I wonder if there are any other questions?" Tianyun squinted his eyes at them. No. Tian Yueming still wanted to ask a lot of questions, but he found it unnecessary. Even if Tianyun told the outside world that they had the princess of the Death Clan here, they would still have to go through many layers of seals to enter the treasury to rescue her. From the beginning until now, they hadn't found anything. Moreover, no one had sneaked in from the outside. There was no information at all. She just disappeared into thin air. At first, they wanted to ask if it was Tianyun's doing. After all, he was the only one who knew about it. Now that they thought about it carefully, it didn't seem to be the case. They didn't believe that someone could hide from so many eyes and enter the treasury so easily. Unless that person's cultivation was higher than a Grand Star Venerable's. However, if that person had reached such a level, he could probably crush them easily. Why would he sneak in? He could just kill them openly and suppress them. That's good. If there's anything else, just ask me. Tianyun thought for a while and asked, by the way, I want to ask about the princess again. Can I go down there? I can't for the time being. She's in a rather chaotic state. It's better not to meet her. I won't be able to get any information from her. Tian Yueming lied. He didn't want Tianyun to know that Kong Shengming had disappeared. Okay. If that's the case, I won't stay here any longer. I'll go back and tell them about the situation here. Tianyun found an excuse to leave. Okay. We'll meet again when the Purple Gold Divine Pavilion opens, Tian Yueming said with a faint smile. He didn't try to persuade Tianyun to stay. He was worried that if Tianyun stayed here and discovered that Kong Shengming was not there, it would be funny. He had promised Tianyun that he would satisfy his request to see Kong Shengming at any time. If Kong Shengming disappeared, how could they explain it to him? Then I'll take my leave. Tianyun cupped his fists and smiled. Then he left. They didn't try to persuade him to stay. They had wanted to persuade Tianyun to stay and find out more about him. But now they let him go in advance. They wanted to let Tianyun leave first. As for whether they could find out Tianyun's identity, it would be difficult. Tianyun wasn't from the Red Moon planet. Plus, his face had changed. It wasn't easy to recognize him. Most importantly, he hadn't exposed anything. Even on the desolate dragon planet, no one knew he had become a Grand Star Venerable. They started by investigating Grand Star Venerables to see if there was someone like that. Keep looking. I don't believe she left no trace of her aura. Tian Yueming turned around and continued to search for Kong Shengming's aura. He couldn't just let her disappear like that. Tianyun didn't see Tian Yuan and Tian Xinghuan on his way out. It seemed they hadn't been captured. After all, they were two Grand Star Venerables. Normally, it would not be easy to capture them. Just as he was about to leave, he saw a familiar face walking in from outside. It was Tian Kuangyue, the Grand Star Venerable who had been chasing Tian Xinghuan. When he passed by Tianyun, his eyes lingered on Tianyun's face for a while. He couldn't see Tianyun's face clearly. Strange. How did this guy cover his face? Never mind. It's better not to bother with this kind of person. Tian Kuangyue left after a glance. He didn't look into it. Tianyun also looked at him with a faint smile. This guy is really lucky. If Tian Yuan didn't let him go, Tianyun would have already killed him. Chapter 2190. After saving a crucial person like Kong Shengming, he would leave this place to save the next member of the Death Clan. Although it was still urgent, at least he had saved Kong Shengming, and the Death Gate would not be opened by force. Then Tianyun used the Super Appraisal Eye to look for the next member of the Death Clan. He could find him easily as long as he told him his name. After telling him his name, he quickly found the place where he was being held. As expected, he was imprisoned by a family and sealed off by layers of seals. However, this family was relatively weak. The strongest member was only a Star Venerable. They must have been lucky enough to capture a member of the Death Clan in time. The Death Clan could detect their clansmen, but they could not detect them as long as they blocked it slightly. Even a simple shielding formation could cut off the detection. One had to admit that the detection ability was only effective when it was not blocked. Even a small shielding formation would lose its effect immediately. One had to admit that the detection ability was quite weak. Even a family with only Star Venerables could block their detection easily. This was quite ordinary. Since the family was relatively weak, Yi Tianyun used a simple and violent method. He suppressed them with the power of a grand star venerable. The result was predictable. They immediately cried and knelt down, begging for mercy. As soon as Yi Tianyun mentioned the Death Clan, they immediately offered it to Yi Tianyun without hesitation. This was the benefit of being strong. They could easily make their opponents offer them up. After easily saving a member of the Death Clan, Yang Ling went on to save another member of the Death Clan. He only needed to tell them their names, and he could easily find them and save them. Fortunately, it was only a small family that captured members of the Death Clan. If it were a big family, it would have taken some effort. As Yang Ling kept solving them, he finally encountered a slightly bigger family. This time, he sent the entire Death Clan to put pressure on them. They had 2 Grand Star Venerables, and the rest were all powerful Star Venerables. Even the bigger families had to compromise. Since the Death Clan had come in person, they could only compromise. When they handed over the people, they said they hoped they would pay a price, such as resurrecting their relative. It was meaningless to talk about this now. If they had a better attitude, they might still have a chance, but now it was completely impossible. After rescuing them, he quickly rushed to the next location. The news of them moving out together would definitely spread. At that time, there would definitely be big clans coming to surround them. They weren't afraid of the Death Clan, but they were afraid that there would be no Death Clan to capture. No matter how strong the Death Clan was, they were only a small group of people. To them, there was nothing to worry about. Fortunately, most of the people were rescued. Those who were caught outside were only a few, not the majority. Basically, all of them have been rescued. Now, the news of your Death Clan going out to rescue people has really spread. After Yi Tianyun gathered all the members of the Death Clan, he said to Kong Xingming and the others with a serious expression, "According to the investigation, they are all crazy, and they are constantly looking for you. It seems that you are really in high demand, and they are all rushing over to snatch you. When we decided to go out together, we already knew the result, didn't we?" Kong Xingming showed a smile, speaking of which, young Master Yi is really the savior of our Death Clan. Not only can you find our clansmen, but you have also been helping us. We don't know how to thank you. Sister, I'm sorry. Kong Yeyue stood up and said solemnly, "Before this, I promised that as long as young Master Yi saved all our clansmen, I am willing to serve him for the rest of my life." She chose to stand by Yi Tianyun's side, and now Yi Tianyun had saved all the Death Clan. Maybe there were some who were wandering outside, but those were either elders or dead, and they couldn't be found for the time being. For now, they had basically found all the people that could be found. Of course, in terms of the task, he did not complete it. As long as the elders were not found, the task could not be said to be completed. I also said before that I am willing to follow him. Hong Yuan also stood up. He also said before that as long as Yi Tianyun saved the princess, he would follow Yi Tianyun and be at his beck and call. The two of them stood by Yi Tianyun's side, as if to express the price that Yi Tianyun had paid to save them. Kong Xingming's expression changed, and she looked at Yi Tianyun and said, "Young Master Yi, I wonder if it is possible to use other things as the price to replace them? For example, I can help you resurrect many of your relatives, and even the souls of great star venerables. As long as their souls are not broken or reincarnated, I can resurrect them." Kong Xingming did not want to see her sister leave with another man. Even though Yi Tianyun had saved them, she did not want her sister to sacrifice herself like this. "Sister, do you think this can replace the reward?" Kong Yeyue had a complicated look in her eyes. She was not willing to leave the Death Clan, but if she really had to serve Yi Tianyun for the rest of her life, she could accept it. After all, she was very satisfied with Yi Tianyun's character. Kong Xingming shook her head and grabbed her sister. She said in a deep voice, "Absolutely not. The price is too high. You need to have your own life, and not serve someone all the time, even if he is our benefactor. We can use other rewards, such as resurrecting more people and giving more treasures. The foundation of the Death Clan is not bad. She was still not willing to give up. She did not want her sister to leave her like this. I am sorry, sister. I promised you before, and I cannot break my promise. Kong Yue shook her head. This? Kong Xingming was stunned. Then she sighed deeply and looked at Yi Tianyun with a complicated look in her eyes. She said, Then, please take care of my sister. The rest of the Death Clan looked at each other. They all wanted to say a few words, but since Kong Yue had said so, what else could they say? They only hoped that Yi Tianyun would treat Kong Yue and Hong Yuan well. Did I ask you to do this? I said from the beginning that you don't need to serve me. Yi Tianyun spread out his hands and signaled them to stop arguing. This, young Master Yi, do you not like me? Kong Yue was a little anxious. Did Yi Tianyun have other needs? That's not it. I have said before that the Death Clan has some relationship with me. Yi Tianyun said with a smile, It is not convenient to reveal it now, but I can feel your sincerity. Before that, why don't we discuss how to save your elders? Chapter 2191. The task that Yi Tianyun needed to complete was to take all of them under his command. This meant that he had the entire Death Clan, so he had to save everyone. They could all belong to him, so he definitely couldn't waste any of them. As for serving him, as long as the Death Clan continued to serve the five-colored Emperor Dragon, it was equivalent to serving him. If everyone were to serve him, then why was there a need to discuss whether Hong Yuan and Kong Yue should serve him? Find the elders? Young Master Yi, can you help us find where the elders are? Kong Xingming and the others were surprised. They were most worried about the whereabouts of the elders, and the most important thing was the clan leader. Have you forgotten my ability to find people? As long as I pay a small price, I can still find them. Yi Tianyun smiled and said, That's right, I almost forgot. Young Master Yi's ability to find people is not weak. He easily found our people. Then we will leave it to young Master Yi. We will definitely repay you well in the future. The elders control more resources, and we can satisfy your needs. Kong Xingming and the others were surprised and happy about this ability. They were shocked that it was so easy to find them. On the other hand, even if they hid in the future, they could be easily found. It meant that their own hiding place would be meaningless. Fortunately, Yi Tianyun was not hostile to them, so it was not a big deal to know. If the enemy's hiding place could be easily found, it would be terrifying. Yi Tianyun smiled and did not continue to talk about the reward. In their opinion, the only way to repay Yi Tianyun is to pay him back. They don't know how else to repay him. Tell me their names, and let me sense their location through their names. Yi Tianyun said it very straightforwardly. In fact, he had searched for so many people, and every time he just asked them to tell him their names, then he could find them. They must have guessed it. It was through the names. As long as one was not a fool, they would be able to guess it. Now that he said it so straightforwardly, they did not point it out and continued to say the names. Needless to say, this was beyond their common sense. They had heard of using things like blood or treasures in their possession to search for their location. He had never heard of anyone being able to find someone just by using their name. There were more than 10 million people with the same name. How could he tell them apart? They did not ask about this point of confusion. These secret techniques were not passed down, so they naturally wouldn't ask what they shouldn't ask. They only needed to know the result and didn't need to care about anything else. Also, he was worried that the price would be too high. But no matter how high it was, he could only use it. He could only say that it was time to make up for it. After telling him the name, Yi Tianyun began to meditate and search. In fact, there was no need for him to do this. He was just putting on an act to prevent others from thinking that he could easily find everything. After searching for a while, Yi Tianyun's expression suddenly changed. He quickly stood up and his expression became extremely serious. Young Master E, what's wrong? Their hearts skipped a beat as they felt an extremely bad premonition. As far as the situation is concerned, it is indeed rather complicated. No wonder you couldn't sense them and didn't know where they went. Tianyan shook his head and smiled bitterly. They are now trapped in the door of death. You said that you can sense them? What? Trapped in the door of death? They were immediately startled. No matter how much they thought about it, they never thought that their elder would be trapped in the door of death. Clan, where's the clan leader? Kong Xingming asked nervously. She and Kong Yue were most concerned about the clan leader. The clan leader was their father. Everyone else, including your mother, is trapped in the door of death. The situation is not too good now. They are trapped by a force and can't come out. As for the surrounding situation, there are no enemies, but there are a lot of vengeful spirit. Tianyun's super appraisal eyes could only see so much. He could only find out more details when he went over. Door of Death. They went to the door of death, Kong Xingming and the others murmured. The door of death was a taboo for them. They could not enter it casually under normal circumstances. Entering it was equivalent to dying. Even though they were known as the Death Clan, they could not enter the door of death casually. All the elders and the clan leader had entered the door of death. They would not enter the door of death unless it was extremely dangerous. What do you think now? Should we enter the door of death to look for them? Tianyun asked while looking at Kong Xingming and the others. The door of death. We will definitely die if we enter it with our strength. Even a Grand Star Venerable can only stay there for a while. If we stay there for a long time, we will definitely die. Kong Xingming smiled bitterly. She had not expected it to be the door of death. How could this guy save them? Is the door of death really that terrifying? Tianyun was a little curious. There are the souls of many Grand Star Venerables inside. We can even meet Divine Star Venerables who are stronger than Grand Star Venerables. Even in their soul state, they are extremely terrifying. If they invade, the best-case scenario is that their soul will be severely injured. In the worst-case scenario, their body will be possessed and they will completely collapse, Kong Xingming said with a bitter smile. Divine Star Venerables. Tianyun's face darkened. Divine Star Venerables were stronger than Grand Star Venerables. There was not a single Divine Star Venerable on the entire Crimson Moon planet. Of course, it was possible that Divine Star Venerables could not be bothered with the outside world, and had been hiding. However, the souls of Divine Star Venerables were inside the door of death. That was extremely terrifying. Of course, even if we don't meet Divine Star Venerables, there are many souls of Grand Star Venerables. Therefore, those with cultivation lower than Grand Star Venerables will basically be courting death if they enter. Kong Xingming looked at Tianyun and said, If we go in, only the two of us can go in. The others can only stay outside. Sister, you two aren't really planning to enter the door of death to save people, are you? Kong Yue and the others' expressions changed. That was an extremely dangerous area. Wouldn't entering casually be courting death? Other than that, do we have any other way? Kong Xingming sighed and said, The Patriarch and the others are trapped inside. They should need some external help. At the very least, we have to check and see how we can help. But if it's opened once, it'll take a while before it can be opened again. Kong Yue hurriedly said, I can only say that we have to hold on. Kong Xingming looked at Tianyun and said, I just don't know if young Master E can help this time. This is a path of death. If young Master E refuses, I won't say anything. If you agree when we rescue them, I'm willing to serve you forever in their place. Chapter 2192. Ahem, you don't have to say that. I'll agree to it. I already said that I was going to save your elder. Tianyun quickly waved his hand. He just hoped that they would not use this method as a reward. No matter what, I've made up my mind. I understand what you're trying to say. There are some things that we should do. Kong Xingming's eyes were full of determination. Let's not talk about this. Speaking of which, how long do you need to wait before you can open the door of death again? Yi Tianyun asked. Not long. I need to wait for a year. But a year. Kong Xingming smiled bitterly. That will depend on our dodging skills and a bit of luck. If we are unlucky, we might even die in a few days, let alone a year. It can only be opened in a year. Yi Tianyun was not worried at all. After all, he had the door of death. Kong Xingming could not open it, but he could. Moreover, he had the super teleportation divine stone. He could set the coordinates there and teleport back. There was no need to worry about not being able to come back. Therefore, he had been especially calm when he knew they were going into the door of death. Even if he ran into a divine star venerable, he could just teleport back immediately. Wasting an opportunity was better than losing his life. Yes, that's why we have to prepare a foolproof plan. However, we don't have what we need to prepare right now. Our clan has fallen, and many things have been taken away. Kong Xingming shook her head and sighed. We don't need to prepare anything. We just need to make arrangements for them. Yi Tianyun looked at Kong Yue and the others. Since they were not here, Kong Yue and the others would have to be careful. They would not be able to resist a few great star venerables. We'll be fine. As long as no one reveals our hiding spot, they won't find us. We've been hidden for so long without being found because we have good hiding skills. Kong Yue and the rest had absolute confidence. If there wasn't a traitor, how could they have been exposed? In that case, I'm relieved. Yi Tianyun nodded. Kong Xingming didn't express any opinion on this. She knew about her family's affairs and was extremely confident. Let's go now. There's nothing to prepare. Yi Tianyun looked at Kong Xingming and said, Young Master Yi, don't you need to prepare anything? For example, going back to give some instructions or preparing something. She didn't say it too bluntly. This was a mission with a slim chance of survival. If she didn't go back and make arrangements in advance, if she died inside, then everything would be over. There's no need. I've never felt like I'm going to die. Yi Tianyun grinned. This was not an exaggeration. Just the fact that he could resurrect himself made him unafraid of death. Moreover, he had an escape technique, so there was no need to worry. At home, he had an avatar as a backup. Similarly, there was nothing to worry about. All right then. Kong Xingming didn't say much. Since Yi Tianyun said so, she didn't refute him. Mainly, she was still a little selfish in her heart. It would be great if someone could help her. If she went in alone, it would be extremely dangerous. It could even be said that there was no hope at all. Now, the only person they could trust was Yi Tianyun. As for the friends that they had contacted before, they didn't dare to contact them anymore. They had been cheated previously. Although they didn't know who it was that group of people. Now, Yi Tianyun was an outsider. But no matter what, he saved all of them. If this couldn't be trusted, then no one could be trusted. Or rather, with the current situation, even if they were cheated, they would accept it. After saving so many people, they were still cheated. Then they would accept it. Moreover, now that Yi Tianyun followed them into the door of death, there was nothing more to say. If he still betrayed them in such a situation, then he would really be resigned to his fate. Then, I will start opening the door of death now. As everything is random, I don't know where I will go. So, be prepared for battle. Kong Xingming's tone was extremely strict. Now that things had come to this, she had no choice but to be serious. Alright, let's start. Yi Tianyun gestured for Kong Xingming to start. Kong Xingming nodded her head. She stretched out her hand and a dark force gushed out. Then, she drew a circle in front of her. Moments later, the void in front of her started to distort. Following this, a pitch-black door appeared in front of the crowd. A terrifying aura of death could be felt coming from the gap. At the same time, there were horrifying cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. These were the voices of vengeful spirits. It was so creepy to listen to. That was the real hell. There were vengeful spirits everywhere. If one was careless, they would be possessed by the spirits. The key point was that these souls would not be resurrected, and would only cause your body to explode and devour your soul. One could imagine how painful it would be. Soon, the door of death opened a gap. Kong Shengming immediately said, "Now?" As soon as she finished speaking, Kong Shengming took the lead and rushed forward. She was the first to rush into the door of death. Then, she followed closely behind Yi Tianyun. After the two of them entered, the door of death quickly closed. If they were any slower, vengeful spirits might rush out from inside. After they disappeared, Kong Yue and the rest were filled with worry. Many of them were praying in their hearts that Yi Tianyun and the rest would return safely. On the other side of the door of death, the void shook slightly. Then, two figures rushed out of the pitch-black door. These two people were Yi Tianyun and Kong Shengming. Just as the two of them came out, they were immediately surrounded by terrifying vengeful spirits. Yi Tianyun raised his head to look. He immediately discovered that there were countless vengeful spirits rushing towards them. The faces of these vengeful spirits could be seen clearly. Only one of them had a face, and they were rushing over to bite them. Their attack method did not have any special technique. They were purely pouncing over to bite them. The higher their cultivation, the faster their speed. It looked like they were biting. But if they got close, they would directly drill into the body and gnaw at the soul. Therefore, they could not let them get close. Once they got close, it would be a very troublesome matter. "Quickly retreat!" Kong Shengming shouted. A terrifying dark power spread out in all directions. At the same time, a special power enveloped a few meters around them. When the vengeful spirits touched the power, they bounced to the side. Then, these malevolent, vengeful spirits started to become confused. They floated away in all directions and no longer cared about the two of them. Fortunately, their cultivation is relatively low. Otherwise, they would not have left. Kong Shengming heaved a sigh of relief. At least their luck was not bad. Chapter 2193. Inside the death's door, Yi Tianyun thought that everything was empty and that it was filled with all kinds of vengeful spirits. In fact, looking around, there were still many planets nearby. However, these planets looked bare and pitch-black. There were no living creatures at all. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for there to be any living creatures. If there were, they would be eaten by these vengeful spirits. As long as it was a living creature, it would be eaten. Fortunately, the spirits themselves did not eat each other. They were moving in groups. They kept floating around, looking very strange. However, spirits were not everywhere. They did not fill up the entire space. There were still many empty areas. If there were so many vengeful spirits, it would be really scary. Of course, it was scary enough now. As long as there was a bit of life aura, they would rush over and eat it. Now, they were completely relying on Kong Shengming's ability to fill their surroundings with the aura of death, deceiving the other vengeful spirits and making them treat Yi Tianyun and Kong Shengming as their companions. As it was only effective on those with low cultivation, those with higher cultivation would not be deceived. It should be said that it could pass through the aura of death and feel the life aura in their body. To put it bluntly, it was stronger and could see more clearly. This area can only be entered through the death's door? Yi Tianyun looked around and asked. Based on what we know, this is the only way. With our senses, we were able to sense the passageway to this world. Then, we forcefully opened it and came over. Kong Shengming explained. Before looking for you, your sister said that someone might be interested in your ability to open the death's door. Does that mean that you can open the death's door forever? Yi Tianyun asked curiously. I can't open it forever. However, after I sacrifice my life, I can open it for a long time. If I open it for a long time, the outside world will be in chaos. I don't know how many vengeful spirits will rush out. Kong Shengming shook her head. Therefore, even if we die, we cannot be used to do such things. It will cause chaos in the outside world. There was one time in the past when I was forced to sacrifice myself. Fortunately, I stopped it in time. Otherwise, it would really be chaotic. There was one time in the past. Tianyun was puzzled. We'll have to trace it back to the Great War that happened a long time ago. It was the war between Lord Five-Colored Emperor Dragon and the Giant Beast Clan. In order to win the war, the Giant Beast Clan captured our people and forcefully opened the Gate of Death. Fortunately, the Five-Colored Emperor Dragon arrived in time and forcefully closed the Death's door. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. Kong Xingming's eyes were filled with fascination. The giant beasts. Could it be the giant beasts who are behind this? Tianyun's eyes flickered. That's unlikely. The giant beasts have long since disappeared. What's left are just some insignificant beasts. Kong Xingming shook her head. No, I went to a giant beast's territory before. It was full of beasts. There was even an extremely powerful late-stage, star venerable beast. It was probably about to break through to the divine star venerable level. If I hadn't destroyed it a little, it might have really advanced to the divine star venerable level. Tianyun's expression was solemn. After some speculation, it seemed to be related to the giant beasts. Only the giant beasts would want to forcefully open the death's door and cause chaos in the world. No family on planet Crimson Moon would have such an idea. They only wanted to use this power to resurrect their loved ones. After all, if they really released a large number of vengeful spirits, even they would suffer. They obviously wouldn't do that. If that's really the case, it's really possible. Kong Xingming's expression was gloomy. They really didn't know about this. Very few people knew where the giant beast's territory was, so it was normal that they didn't know. Let's save your elder first. I've already sensed where it is. Let's go over now. Tianyun gestured for Kong Xingming to follow him. Kong Xingming nodded and quickly followed Tianyun, constantly releasing the aura of death. This consumption was relatively large, so they couldn't persist for a long time. If they could persist, she wouldn't have said that it was a narrow escape. It might be useful in the beginning, but it wouldn't be effective if they met someone with a stronger cultivation. Especially now that they were flying around randomly, it would be even more dangerous. But now that things had come to this, they couldn't care so much. After Tianyun determined the direction, he flew quickly with Kong Xingming, all the way to the destination. The more they stayed here, the more dangerous it would be. However, they didn't fly for long. Suddenly, a few resentful souls dashed over crazily. They passed the aura of death and started to gnaw at them. Living creatures, living creatures, living creatures. Eat, eat, eat. They spoke horrifying words in the human language. They are grand star venerate resentful souls. They have seen through my defense. Kong Xingming's expression changed. She hadn't expected to run into grand star venerate resentful souls so soon. Don't be afraid. Let me handle it. Tianyun's eyes were ice-cold. He waved his hand and the divine soul bloodline in his body was activated. A powerful soul control power grabbed the resentful souls that were pouncing at him and quickly enveloped them. Under his control, he managed to suppress the resentful souls. However, it was extremely difficult to erase their murderous intents, unlike capturing some souls outside, which could be easily erased. It would take a lot of effort to erase their murderous intent. The main reason was that the murderous intents were too strong. There was too much resentment and murderous intent accumulated there. It wouldn't be easy to erase them. In such a situation, Tianyun could only suppress them. He couldn't erase their murderous intents and resentment quickly, as expected of the resentful souls in the Death Gate. Even the divine soul bloodline can't suppress them easily. Tianyun was surprised. He had thought he could kill them easily, but it seemed he had overthought it. However, Kong Xingming was already dumbfounded by this slight display of power. He could suppress the resentful souls of Grand Star Venerates so easily, and there were several of them. If it were her, she wouldn't be able to do this. She could suppress one at most, and that would be pretty good already. She knew the horrifying resentment and murderous intent contained in those resentful souls. They couldn't be suppressed easily. Tianyun could suppress several of them. It wasn't hard to imagine that he was stronger than the Death Clan when it came to controlling souls. In terms of bloodline, the Divine Soul bloodline was stronger than the Death Clan's bloodline. However, they couldn't be compared. One could control souls, while the other could extract souls and resurrect them. They had completely different effects and couldn't be compared. Chapter 2194. After suppressing the souls of the Grand Star Venerables, Tianyun continued to fly forward with Kong Xingming. At the same time, he kept suppressing the souls. If he could capture these souls here, he could take them back and make them into puppets. However, he would have to pay a great price and he would have to kill them for a long time. Judging from the current situation, it was better not to do that for the time being. Thus, after flying a certain distance away, he quickly threw the vengeful soul outside. Taking advantage of the fact that the vengeful soul was still trapped, he quickly escaped with Kong Xingming. By the time they broke free and chased after him, Tianyun and the others had already run far away. "It's a pity, if I can keep them all, then I'll have a lot of puppets." Tianyun felt a little pity, but even if he killed them, it's not an easy task. It was the same as erasing their murderous aura and resentment. He had to keep killing them until they disappeared completely. Only then could he kill them. This was their territory. Their life force was very durable. They were much tougher than they were outside. This was why they said that entering this place was like having a slim chance of survival. It was not easy to kill them, and there were many of them. So, they could only choose to run away. They could kill those with a lower cultivation, but it was not necessary. Especially when they had to save people. They should focus on saving people instead of killing or capturing resentful souls. There were too many Grand Star Venerables here. They could not capture all of them. This was also what Tianyun was thinking about. As expected, they saw another group of Grand Star Venerables' resentful souls coming in their direction after flying for a while. They had only flown for a short distance when a group of people came charging at them. Tianyun went again. He used his divine soul and bloodline to suppress them again. This time, Kong Xingming did not stay idle. She used a special confinement method, which was much faster than if Tianyun did it alone. She had been so shocked by Tianyun's ability that she did not react immediately. Now that she had come back to her senses, she quickly confined those resentful souls to make them more secure. She had always had this ability. They could resurrect souls, so they could also confine resentful souls. To resurrect souls, one had to take them out of the gate of death first. Then they had to be confined. Otherwise, they could not be resurrected. For now, only the Death Clan had the ability to resurrect souls. Tianyun could not resurrect souls even if he caught them. Even if he erased their murderous aura and resentment, it would be useless. If they could be resurrected easily, the Death Clan would be useless. They could just open the gate of death. It's a Great Star Venerable level ghost. No wonder they said that those with low cultivation are courting death. Tianyun couldn't help but say a few words after throwing the ghost away. It's still all right for us. If we were unlucky and ran into a lot of Great Star Venerables' vengeful spirits, we wouldn't have been able to restrain them easily. If I encounter a Divine Star Venerable, then there's no need to even mention it. Kong Xingming didn't even dare to think about what would happen next. A Divine Star Venerable's soul, even a vengeful spirit, was an extremely terrifying existence. Divine Star Venerable's souls. Tianyun shook his head. He really did not want to see Divine Star Venerable's souls. He hoped he would not have to see them for even a second. As they flew at high speed without stopping, they encountered several Grand Star Venerable souls along the way. Fortunately, their luck was not bad. They only encountered a few resentful souls. Overall, it was quite impressive. "We are almost there," Tianyun suddenly said. "We are almost there." Kong Xingming's eyes lit up. They had finally reached their destination after flying for such a long time. Grand Star Venerables could fly at full speed through many planets in the blink of an eye. After flying for such a long time, they had finally reached their destination. It was easy to imagine how far they were and how many dangers they had encountered on the way. A moment later, a large patch of black fog entered his eyes. What entered his ears were the shrill screams that pierced through his eardrums. The screams were coming from the front. The black fog in front of them was no ordinary fog. It was densely packed with resentful souls. There were at least tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions of them. Both of them were frightened by such a terrifying number. No wonder I saw a gray haze all around me. It turns out these resentful souls have enveloped us. Tianyun's face sank. He raised his eyes and looked around. The number of resentful souls in the surroundings was shocking. Among them, there were tens of thousands of Grand Star Venerable souls. Here, it was counted in the tens of thousands, not the number of beasts. They could barely see the situation inside through the tight crack. There was a group of experts inside, all of them building a thick barrier, sealing them tightly, blocking the invasion of the many vengeful spirits. It seemed like they were fine for the time being. However, it would not be easy for them to rush out. How could they escape with so many resentful souls surrounding them? Not to mention escaping, even if Tianyun and the others wanted to enter, it would not be an easy task. Fortunately, they were all resentful souls. Even if they used the simplest method of gnawing, they would still be powerful, but not so ferocious. If 10,000 Grand Star Venerables besieged them, they would collapse in less than a breath's time. They would not be able to last that long. There are too many of them. How can we save them? Kong Xingming panicked. How could they save so many resentful souls? They had thought they could help by coming in. However, how could they help? If they were to rush forward, they would probably be trapped inside. That's easy. The key is how to get in. Tianyun's eyes flickered. As long as they could rush in, he could save them. He could use the super teleportation divine stone to escape. Nothing would be a problem. Even if he could not use the super teleportation divine stone, he could use the death gate to escape. Are you saying we should rush in? Kong Xingming was struck dumb. She did not understand what Tianyun meant. Yes. We will rush in and join them. Then, I will have a way to save you, Tianyun said confidently. Kong Xingming thought for a while. Then, she said, clenching her teeth, I have a way to let you pass. Hold on. You mean you want to attract them over and let me in? Tianyun immediately caught on. Kong Xingming would attract the firepower and let him pass. Yes. I have a way to attract a large number of them over. Young Master Yi, you can use this chance to go in. This is the only way, Kong Xingming explained. Tianyun looked at her for a while and shook his head. Forget it. Let me do it. I should be able to blast an opening. Chapter 2195. Young Master Yi let you do it? Kong Xingming was stunned. It was not that she did not trust Tianyun, but she felt that she was more capable of attracting these vengeful souls. Along the way, Tianyun's ability to control souls was indeed outstanding. But from the perspective of attracting vengeful souls, there was no doubt that she was better at it. Yes, if I let you do it, it will be easier for us to separate. If you are surrounded, it will not be easy for you to escape. Especially, we have to go in together, otherwise they will definitely not let me in. Tianyun pointed to the flashing light shield in front of him. If he flew over alone, the other party would probably not let him in. That's right, but young Master Yi, how do you plan to solve it? Kong Xingming was puzzled. Didn't I say it just now? Just blast a hole, it's that simple. Tianyun grinned. Blast a hole, how do I do that? Kong Xingming looked at the densely packed vengeful souls in front of her. With so many vengeful souls, the hardness was no less than a thick city wall. It was too difficult to blast it open. Once there were a lot of them, even ants could bite an elephant to death. Vengeful souls were originally harder, it was more difficult to blast them open. It was more practical to attract them. It's very simple, I just need to mobilize my strength to create a gap. Tianyun took a deep breath, and the 7-color Emperor Dragon Star Dharma idol started to flicker behind him. Even if the night sky was dark, Tianyun could still see the 7-color Emperor Dragon Star Dharma idol, and the vast stars shrouded him from above. Transform into the original body. Tianyun's body leaped and instantly transformed into the original body of the 7-colored Emperor Dragon. The huge body of the 7-colored Emperor Dragon quickly appeared in front of Kong Xingming. After Kong Xingming saw it, she was immediately shocked. Five-color Emperor Dragon Lord, she was truly stunned. She didn't know what kind of Dharma of stars Tianyun had, but now that it had exploded, she finally understood what Tianyun meant by the origin. Tianyun was the 5-colored Emperor Dragon. He was an existence that had once led the Death Clan to the peak. Now that it had reappeared in front of them, her heart skipped a beat. I didn't expect him to be the inheritor of the 5-colored Emperor Dragon. It's unbelievable. Kong Xingming covered her mouth in shock. She finally understood why Tianyun helped them. He didn't help them for no reason. Originally, Tianyun didn't want to expose himself so quickly, but now that things had come to this, he had no choice but to do so. However, it wasn't a problem for him to expose himself in advance. After all, he wasn't an enemy. After unleashing his original body, a 7-colored light shone brilliantly. Behind him, 4 layers of starlight Dharma idols appeared and stacked on top of each other. All sorts of starlight deities and the like were stacked on top of each other. Soon, the astral power above him quickly spread out and rushed to more than 50 units of astral power in one go. The crazy damage mode was stacked on top of each other at the same time, and its power soared again. However, it wasn't over yet. Unleash your astral power and help me, Tianyun snorted. Because he unleashed his astral power, the surrounding souls were immediately attracted over. How could they miss such a huge amount of vitality? However, not many of the souls surrounding the Death Clan were attracted over. After all, there were also many lives there, and they wouldn't be attracted over for the time being. If a simple burst of astral power could attract the souls over, Kong Xingming wouldn't have said that. Kong Xingming didn't know what Tianyun meant, but she could only listen to Tianyun and unleash her astral power. 37 units of astral power were formed above her. As soon as it was formed, Tianyun took a big bite, directly losing a third of its original amount, and superimposed on top of his own 50 cubes of star power, once again reached a higher level of 54 cubes of star power. His power increased again, but this wasn't his limit. This was the best he could do for now. Go! Tianyun let out a low roar. The giant rainbow Emperor Dragon tore forward. It opened its huge mouth, and the power of primal chaos burst out. 7 stars shine. 7 different attributes roared and attacked, bombarding forward. The thick beam of light was like an incomparably huge galaxy, piercing through the group of vengeful spirits. Boom! A power that could restrain any attribute exploded amidst this pile of vengeful souls. Especially the power of the light attribute, it was released to its greatest extent. Ding! Successfully killed a star Venerable's vengeful spirit. Obtained 100 star energy points. Ding! Successfully killed a grand star Venerable's vengeful spirit. Obtained 1000 star energy points. Ding! With a single strike, many vengeful spirits were destroyed. To be precise, they only dissipated temporarily. After a period of time, they would slowly fuse back together. In this place, they wouldn't die. Unless they were pulled out of this world, they would at most dissipate. There was no way to completely destroy them. However, the amount of star energy obtained from killing them was too low. It wasn't enough at all. After a series of fierce attacks, a large number of vengeful spirits were easily destroyed. The terrifying restraining attribute was enough to easily destroy a large number of vengeful spirits. With the fusion of other attributes, the effect was also greatly enhanced, and it was easier to destroy them. In an instant, a small gap was cleared. At that moment, they could clearly see that the vengeful spirits had surrounded the elders of the Death Clan. They were also looking at the situation outside in shock. Especially the Rainbow Emperor Dragon's true body, which had shocked them. One had to know that they originally believed in the five-colored Imperial Dragon. Now that the five-colored Imperial Dragon had rushed out, their feelings were elevated. "Release your star energy and help me," Tianyun said in a dignified voice. "Quick, quick, release your star energy and help Lord Rainbow Emperor Dragon." They didn't doubt it at all. Although they didn't know where it had come from, they were certain that it was the Rainbow Emperor Dragon. Then they released their star energy one after another, but Tianyun couldn't absorb that much. However, since they had already released their star energy, he didn't bother to say anything. After all, the situation was critical, and he didn't have the time to explain anything. After releasing a large amount of star energy, Tianyun swallowed it again in one breath. He instantly reached 60 star energy points, which was his current limit. Boom! The power of the 7 stars' shining fury increased by a large margin. The terrifying attack swept forward, increasing the speed of clearing the spirits by several dozen times. Chapter 2196. The horrifying power continued to sweep across and blasted a big hole in front of them. However, the hole was not very big because there were too many vengeful spirits. Even though Tianyun was very powerful, there were too many vengeful spirits. Every time a batch was destroyed, another batch would come to fill the gap. Especially now that the number of vengeful spirits in the surroundings was too big, it attracted more vengeful spirits. Even someone as powerful as Tianyun couldn't resist them for too long. Now, when a big hole was blasted, Tianyun quickly flew forward with Kong Xingming. Their original purpose was to blast a hole, not to kill these vengeful spirits. It was impossible to kill these vengeful spirits. How could they kill them when there were so many of them? Hundreds of millions was just a rough estimate. As more and more of them came to fill the gap, it would not be hundreds of millions, but billions or even billions. In fact, billions was not a lot. But these vengeful spirits were too tough. They were definitely worth hundreds of millions. It was impossible to kill them. Roar, 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 the mournful vengeful spirits surrounded them with cold eyes. They wanted to devour Tianyun and Kong Xingming. But at this moment, Tianyun quickly returned to his original form. He grabbed Kong Xingming and rushed forward. There was no need for them to say anything. The people inside quickly shouted, "Quick, open the protective shield and let them in." Even if they didn't know Tianyun, they had to let Kong Xingming in when they saw him. After opening a hole in the protective cover slightly, the two of them quickly went in. As soon as they went in, the hole in the protective cover quickly closed. Then, the vengeful spirits pounced on them crazily and hit the protective cover one after another. Dong, dong, dong sounds were heard, as if they had hit a thick door. Soon, the hole was filled up. Now, the exit had disappeared. If they wanted to go out, they had to force their way out. But it was meaningless. If they wanted to rush out, they would have to face too many problems. If they could get out, they would have rushed out long ago instead of being trapped here. After entering, Tianyun raised his eyes and looked around. There were several clansmen of the Death Clan meditating here. Their faces were pale, and it was obvious that they had suffered serious injuries. Only a small portion of them were helping to maintain the barrier. Clan leader, mother. Kong Xingming's body trembled when she saw them, and she quickly walked over. Xing'er, why did you come in? Patriarch Kong Fengshen slowly opened his eyes, and so did Qian Yanling. Their eyes were filled with exhaustion, which showed that they had consumed a lot of energy. Among them, Kong Fengshen was obviously seriously injured. His face was even paler than before, as if his blood essence had been sucked dry. Most of the people here were not in good condition. The ones who were in the worst condition were naturally Kong Fengshen and the other elders. They must have suffered extremely serious attacks. That's right. Xing'er, why are you here? It's so dangerous here. We are all trapped here and we can't get out at all. Now you rush in. Qian Yanling grabbed her little hand, looking nervous and worried. We are here to save you, Kong Xingming explained. Save us? What nonsense. There are so many ghosts here. Don't you know that? We can't get out now, and you are trapped here with us. Qian Yanling shook his head and sighed, feeling a little desperate. Don't be afraid. We have the protection of the Lord. He said that he can save us. Kong Xingming turned to look at Yi Tianyun. Yes, I felt a very familiar aura just now. It seems to be the aura of the five-colored Emperor Dragon. Was it an illusion? Kong Fengshen looked to the side and saw Yi Tianyun. Patriarch, it is indeed the inheritor of the five-colored Emperor Dragon. He is the inheritor of the five-colored Emperor Dragon. The elders next to him were very excited. They were very excited to see Yi Tianyun's five-colored Emperor Dragon. Yes, I am the inheritor of the five-colored Emperor Dragon. This time we are here to save you. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly and released the aura of the five-colored Emperor Dragon at the same time to make them believe him. Kong Fengshen and the others were resting just now, so they naturally did not see everything with their own eyes. He really is the inheritor of the Lord. At this moment, Kong Fengshen and Qian Yanling were excited and wanted to stand up. However, Yi Tianyun stretched out his hand and gently pressed them down, indicating that they should not get up. You are still injured. It's better not to move around. Yi Tianyun glanced at them and said, Let's leave now. If we continue to guard here, the elders will not be able to hold on for too long. Now, they were taking turns to maintain the shield and had been holding on. When they rested, they were constantly chewing on elixirs to replenish their consumption. Under such circumstances, they were able to hold on for so long. However, once the elixirs were eaten, they would be finished. But Lord, how do we leave? There are so many ghosts here. How do we kill our way out? It was the first time that Kong Fengshen and the others met Yi Tianyun, but they immediately chose to trust him. Perhaps the identity of the five-colored Emperor Dragon's inheritor had an incomparable charm and faith to them. In fact, it was similar to the Ghana Patriarch and the others. As long as Yi Tianyun showed his identity, they would trust him unconditionally. Perhaps this was because they believed that the five-colored Emperor Dragon's inheritor was absolutely righteous and trustworthy. Everyone's eyes are looking at Yi Tianyun. They want to listen to his instructions. It's very simple. That is to open the door of death to leave. Yi Tianyun said with a smile. Open the door of death to leave? They had a strange look on their faces. Kong Fengshen said awkwardly, Lord, there is still half a month before I can open the door of death. As for Xing'er, I reckon that you have just come in, so it is even more impossible to open it. I'm afraid this method is too difficult. We just have to hold on for now. After a month, I will open the door of death to leave. But with your current condition, forget about a month. You can at most hold on for a few more days, and you will not be able to hold on, right? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. This, yes. They smiled awkwardly. It was indeed so. The situation was just that terrible. Since that is the case, then there is nothing more to say. Furthermore, when I said open the door of death, it is not for you to open it, but for me to open it. Tianyun smiled slightly. He did not plan to use the super teleportation divine stone, but the door of death. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.